world. What's happening? I'm still Cam, and this is still the Real Resilience Talk podcast. I believe this is going to be episode 71. Episode 70 still in production and editing and reviewing. So that might come later. So it's going to be a little numerically off. Anyway, disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. So don't try to sue us or anything we say. What we got on this show is the Real Resilience Talk, and we're going to keep it real as we speak about the subject of resilience. The First Amendment, we defend it, so we shall expend it and use it. So let me tell you, with that being said, you may hear some bad words. But I tell you this, you also going to hear some good words too, because I have a special guest and friend of mine that I admire, I respect. She's a fellow 757 legend, okay? Let's give it up, everybody, for our guest, the one, the only, Miss Yon, everybody.
Thank you all.
Yes,
Joy.
you are
Thank
welcome.
you, Cam, for the opportunity to be here and share your space.
Most definitely.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll get into it. And so I always ask first, and then you can allude to your background on whatever you want to share. But so I ask, what is resilience to you?
Great question. So to me, resilience is stick-to-itness. Being able to get through tough times, being able to not just get through those tough times, but then learn the skills to help you get through other tough times.
Yes.
Being an artist, art therapist, art professor, art connoisseur, art to me is one of several things that helps people define, shape, mold, increase their insights and abilities to be resilient.
Yeah.
So again, I believe resiliency is a life skill. It's something that we need to learn, that we can benefit from learning as we go through this thing called life. And
Yes.
so being someone who is a creative, and that's the core of my being, is being a creative person, I love to see things through that creative lens of resilience.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah.
No, I love that, and I didn't want to read the whole resume and biography, but this is really an amazing human right here, and the skill sets that she has. And we was even just talking before we even started recording. She's still taking classes and courses on how to do different things in different ways, in better ways, and how you said it's on the journey, right? And I just want to give a salute to you, because you're one that doesn't just rest on your laurels or say, oh, I had taught here and I had done this. Art professor is one of the titles she threw out. She has many of them, right? But you're a light in this world. You really are. And ever since I've met you, you've been a genuine light in this world, and you shine light and you share your light, whether it's through art or the care or the random people that just walk up on you and just talk to you about random things in life. Because she has this gift, people just open up. So you might hear me probably run my mouth a little bit more than usual, but that was a beautiful expression and definition of resilience, because what I disdain a little bit today when it comes to the subject is some people call it a buzzword, or some people want to say, well, we should have it be called something different. This emphasis on resilience. Look, man, call it what you want. And we all define things differently, right? We can look at Merriam-Webster's. I'll go ahead and spare y'all with that right quick. Merriam-Webster definition of resilience is the capability of a strained body to recover its size and shape after deformation caused, especially by common bands of stress. All right, whatever to that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the ability, this is Merriam-Webster, the ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. That's cool. What I like is keep moving forward, but also adapt. But also there's the Marine Corps' definition of it. I am a Marine. I love the Marine Corps, so I like this definition. It's the process of preparing for, recovering from, and adjusting to life in the face of stress, adversity, trauma, or tragedy. And then there was what this beautiful person just said, her definition. And so it goes different for everybody. But as you said, that it's a life skill. Is that right?
Yeah. And so it's like, really, I think it's about moving from survival to thriving.
Yes.
Because again, I look at, the different times of my life, personally, professionally, like, things that I went through that I wasn't really happy about or comfortable with. But then I learned, okay, now I have this new set of skills,
Yes.
or I didn't realize that I could get through something like that. So then you're learning about yourself and the potential that you have by becoming resilient or using resiliency. So now I learned this stuff. Now I know how to take this to the next life moment, or I could share this with somebody else who's going through it, who may not know what to do, how to move, how to adapt,
Yes.
and overcome. So it's almost like, definitely like resilience is a life skill. you're learning as you're growing. It's helping you take those resiliency skills into another, distressed moment or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, because it's not like you're not going to have distressing moments. I know I've met some people who seemingly have charmed lives. They
Hmm.
may not, have those moments, but they do. But we
Yeah.
just don't, we're
Yeah.
always not going to know what people are going through. But the idea is that how do I move from survival to thriving?
Yes.
Because sometimes in some moments you have to do what you need to do to survive.
Yes.
And hopefully when that stressor or whatever it is that caused the stress or the chaos subsides, and how do I thrive? What did I learn from that? And I know
Yeah.
that Viktor Frankl, sometimes you may wonder, is life just punking me?
Yeah, that's facts.
Or,
As a Christian gonna pop out.
yeah, like why is the universe picking up, punking me? But, you know, um, some things we have to learn, and they're not
Yes,
going to be comfortable experiences.
that's true.
And I was talking to another Marine this morning, and so he was like, maybe the Lord's trying to get me to learn something because he's going through a tough moment after doing something wonderful for a family member. And I know one of my, not, I don't know if it's a life mantra, but sometimes I wonder, why is it that was it no good deed goes unpunished?
Mm.
And so there's certain things that I've done trying to help somebody, and you're like, how am I being punished for being a good human?
Yes.
But you're like, this is the cross that we bear. We're
Ooh.
not the only ones who've gone through that. You're not going to be the last person. So
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. So I try to humble myself. All right, what do I need to learn from this
Yeah.
to help me
Yeah.
build my resiliency for dealing with whatever it is that is coming at me?
Yeah. That's hard.
Yeah.
That's so hard in the moment, right? Because
Yeah.
we I mean we get caught up and
Hmm.
and it's hard to see that, but for you to have that ability, and I'm sure it's not always, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the things we say on this show is, we're talking about them, we're trying to be mindful of them, we're trying to build up these skills, right? But in the moments of friction, you may not at the moment reframe it the right way and say, what can I learn? You might just go, God, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, sorry for your speakers, anybody, I just blew them. But that's human, right? But then how do you respond after that? Do you reframe it to say, okay, I'm gonna take this mess, make it a message. I'm gonna take this less than situation and make it a lesson to be able to either help me or someone else. And I think that's beautiful. So to anyone out there struggling, listen to the words she just said in that, how can I use this to grow? Right. And that's so much easier said than done. Right. And this
Mhm.
isn't just happy talk because life be lifing. And sometimes the
Yes.
stressor is stressors
Hmm.
and it's like rains, it pours, and so on and so forth. All that just rhymed, by the way. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
mean to,
Just your poet,
but
to just let it flow. Just,
but no, it's imperative. So please just take heed to exactly like what you just said in that it is powerful, and we get lost and we get caught up, and then it's just we get overwhelmed, and then. But I do want to ask, because you say skill set, you say building it and growing. Do you think that your resilience can perish or atrophy?
I guess it probably could if we just, stop growing. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess complacency
Ooh.
helps with that.
Ooh, ooh, look at on the
You
wall.
know,
That Mad Dog right there. Complacency kills. I got Mad Dog on the wall.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because I think that, it's all depends on your perspective and how you see it.
Hmm.
Because I think that, life is going to be life, or this life is going to move forward. And there's always things that can be, in your way or coming at you that we're going to have to deal with it,
Yeah.
to have to be able to figure it out, and not, use counterproductive or unhelpful ways to deal with it.
Yeah.
But I think that, if it's going to happen to you one way or the other,
Hmm.
so it's like, do I just, and I realize too that if you're someone who's, let's say, if something's going on in your universe where you're just catching hell from all sides and you're having a Job moment, I don't know why this is happening, when is this going to let up? And so I would say that, you get tired of having to fight all the time. You
Yeah.
get tired of having to fight in every space, personal, professional, family, romantic, vocational, spiritual, non-spiritual, and it wears you down. But then I think, you fall down, you got to get up.
Yeah.
Like some of y'all are old school. Remember the Weeble Wobbles? Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down.
Yeah.
So if you can look at resiliency as a Weeble Wobble, for those of you who are old enough to know what that is,
Uh-huh.
because again, I mean, Weeble Wobbles, they have to come back up. They're not built to lay down.
Hmm.
And so we are gonna, it's easier said than done, obviously, depending
Yeah.
on what it is you're going through. Because I've met people who've been through horrific things, like my clients or students or friends or whomever. It's just like, we fall down, but we get up.
Yeah.
And so again, I think those skills can atrophy. But if you, want to grow as a human, Because some people want to stay where they are and not move, but comfort is some comfortable spaces become spaces for complacency.
Y'all
And
heard that.
so
Y'all heard that. Some of y'all's comfortable spaces become spaces for complacency. That it?
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So if you see yourself as a vessel, how could I be used to help others? You have to move beyond that. If for yourself, if not for yourself, but for others.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But I know that there's times you get worn down. Like I'm a 6 foot tall Black woman who is with dreads. I'm not the standard of femininity. I have my own version of
Yeah.
that. And so it's just kind of like some days I get tired of
Yeah.
being like a double minority or whatever it is. But it's like, okay, what's the benefit of that?
Yeah.
I got to use these skills that I've been given and these attributes physically and otherwise. Like, how do I find the beauty in who I am and how I'm built?
Yeah.
Things that I have no control over.
That's right.
Because it's like I got to get through life today.
That's right.
And so it's just you just find ways to move through.
Yeah. And you said this. You said the standards of femininity. I want to say this to anyone out there who's going off of standards. There are supposedly what we perceive as standards, but don't let the status quo fool you. You're a beautiful person.
Exactly.
You're a
Yeah,
beautiful human.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
status quo isn't a standard. And when it comes to certain things, I don't think there is certain standards. It's like when people say normal. I'm like,
Yeah, like
what's
what is
that mean?
normal or
What's normal?
traditional? Like, and I struggle to find, how to say a word. And it's not like
Yeah.
I'm being PC. I'm trying to just be inclusive.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, standards are made to be broken.
That's right.
But it's just I say it all that to be that being in the body that I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And being an artist. Because there's a part of me, growing up military, I do like some sense of structure.
Yeah.
But I also like to dance outside the line.
Yeah.
And so I've always felt like, well, I need to fit in, whatever. But no matter where I've been in most places, like I'm always the tallest female or the one with, whatever it was. And so when I was coming up in like middle school and grade school, I'm like, why I gotta be so tall? I'm like the guys aren't asking out the tall chicks and whatnot. And I was just kind of like, what is that about? But as I got older, I realized that what is it like the power in being tall.
Yeah.
And it's not to take anything away from people who are shorter stature.
Yeah.
But what I saw as a deficit, I see as a plus.
Yes.
And so I just go strutting around wherever I am. And like you were saying at the beginning of the podcast, I think people definitely, that light, genuine people are attracted to that.
Yes.
Now people will, use it well and people will not use it well.
That's true.
But definitely. So it's like, looking at, I guess, and putting this in a resiliency context, like what are the benefits of being my height?
Yeah.
And as I was telling you earlier, when I'm in stores, it's usually whenever I'm in Walmart, it only seems to happen in Walmart. I happen to come around an aisle right at the same time, someone of shorter stature needs something on the top shelf. And I'm like, let me get this for you. Is that okay? And they are excited about it. And I'm like, this is why they keep tall people around.
Yeah.
Just for this reason. And then they chuckle and I go on the rest of my day.
So, like they just subliminally called you out of the back. Like, hey, we got one on aisle 3
like
stretching.
Somebody threw up the bat signal or the short bat signal, whatever it is. I'm just, do coming around the corner. And I'm there to help somebody with my tallness, or in just whatever else that they're looking for that day. So, but definitely being looking at resiliency, and again through the lens of a person who's always tried to conform, but then realizing that I'm an artist. Artists don't conform.
Nah, we don't.
Yeah. So, so this is what we do and how we do it. So then it's looking at all right, well, how do I take these natural gifts? And one of mine is being an artist. How do I take that to help me understand my world, but also to help other people understand their world too?
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And I love something. You just used the example of height, right? But it's something that when you were younger, you were, you disdained, or why do I gotta be different? But then you reframe it to how can I use this as service to others, right? And that can be, you can fill in the blank on whether we're talking about a height or we're talking about your background or maybe even traumas you've endured as a human being or the struggles that you've endured and the lessons you've had to learn the hard way. Maybe you can see, if you're thinking in your mental Rolodex, any of you listeners out there, maybe there's something you can use in your arsenal of experience or those things of fill in the blank, right? and use it to be of service, because I find that to be very helpful and convicting in a positive manner for, a lot of military folks, a lot of veterans, a lot of people in service industries are usually very unselfish people.
Mhm.
Usually, like that's almost like it's a foundational thing that they have to have, or that they need to have brought to life, and service provides that. There's obviously always assholes too, so that's another
Yeah, yeah.
story, and there's politicians of all types, but for the most part, so when you tell someone, and someone might be listening right now, like, I don't do that shit. I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, you literally don't care about yourself to a certain degree. Obviously, self-care matters. We got all of that. I don't need anybody trying to send me a message or a comment telling me you need to take care of yourself. What I'm saying to y'all is, sometimes you can inspire someone to want to be their best self, not for the sake of them, but for the sake of the self that they could share with others.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like what you bring up there, Cam, because as I'm, reflecting on like when I was teaching and I was a therapist, like I've never, sometimes not always had what I needed to do what I needed to do.
Mm,
But somehow magically stuff showed up or I was able to find a way to do it. And so I think about like when I was teaching, and so I was teaching sculpture, and I didn't have access to a wood shop. I didn't have access to anything that would help my students learn how to build things three dimensionally. So I'm like, all right, how do I make this work? So I call this kind of like work resilience,
yeah.
because I had to figure out, because I went to this program when I was an undergrad and I didn't learn anything. I almost dropped out of art school because I wasn't fully prepared to be an artist. And so I told myself when I was in art school, if I get to go back to where I went to undergrad, my goal is to build them into better artists, to give them what they need theoretically, conceptually, critically, to help them exceed. Because I wanted to give them what I didn't have.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so I went back there. I'm like, all right, how do I get around teaching people art and I don't even have the tools?
Yeah.
So you got to get creative. You got to find some way to, what are the tools I'm going to need to build career and like educational resiliency for these
Yeah.
students? And so we found ways to do things. And so what I realized as an educator, as a therapist, as a human being on the planet, um, I love seeing people realize their own potential, really the potential for them to do things that they never would have imagined doing. And so making more with less was amazing. And I remember teaching performance art class. And so, for those of you who don't know, performance art started in the 60s. And basically, it's a form of conceptual art, which I love. I'm a conceptual artist, love it, love it, love it. I'm obsessed with thinking. And so, when you're with performance art, is where you use your body as the vehicle of expression. So,
Mm,
whatever you're doing with your body, your sound, your voice, your outfit or no outfit, this is communicating a message. This is delivering your message, whatever you're talking about, and this is how the public receives it.
yeah.
So I had a student years ago, and so he wanted to do a piece on suicide or suicide prevention, and so I would talk to my students about, okay, these big ideals, suicide prevention, drinking and driving, whatever it is, or environmental causes.
Uh-huh.
In order for people to not just, oh, here's another person telling me why I shouldn't do this.
Hmm.
How do you make it personal? How do you make it relatable to you? How is this working in your life? Because I've always wanted them to realize that I don't want people, like, my hope for you is the people don't overlook what you're trying to do. And so he thought about it. And so, interestingly enough, this student's stepfather had attempted suicide recently,
Hmm.
and it was on his mind, which I guess is probably why he wanted to make a piece about this. So, I would encourage them to do their research, do sketches, do models, like look at other performance artists who deal with certain things just to help you mold
Yeah.
your idea. And so he came up with this amazing piece that he did in our student center during a busy time of the day where he was going to catch a lot of people. And so he researched uh, suicide in college age men
Hmm.
and did his research to see like what percentages and numbers and means lethal means used. And so he was working on the floor, basically gathered a bunch of shell casings. So he decided to build a human figure, outline of a human figure on the floor in a student center. If you've been in any university or college, the student center is where everybody
Yeah.
is, especially during peak times of the day. And so, as he was doing research on, I guess, like the number of college age males who suicide, he figured it out, broke it down to like how many seconds does that happen. And so he printed out the research or whatever his statement was on a little piece of paper. So whenever he was, putting the bullet casings to build this form, every, let's say, 30 seconds, he would stop and hand that information to whoever would walk by and take it. And then he would
Wow.
go back into it. And so this is something that, he needed to do to help him understand suicide, or like, what his stepfather was going through at the time, and how this, plagues a lot of people, and definitely college age men in his age range.
Yeah.
And he did it through his body,
Yes.
his research, and bullet casings, and
Yeah.
building this object. And so because he's using his body in this space, people were, didn't really know how to respond, because this is what happens when you're doing performance art. But it didn't stop him. It was almost like he was in character mode. He was doing his thing every, again, 30 seconds. He would hand someone a piece of paper, and he
But
would
lay
get
down
back to doing
another
his thing
shell.
and lay down another shell
Oh.
casing. And
In the kind of looking like a chalk outline.
yeah, looking like a chalk outline with bullet casings.
Wow.
And so, and this is like over 20 years ago when he did this. And now, as I, years later, when I will say I accidentally became a therapist, because it was not on the radar to be a therapist, but this is where I am. Working in suicide prevention and the work I've done there, like it's 20 years ago, and then seeing that reflected now, and like what I'm now learning on a different side of
Yeah.
the wheelhouse. And so, yeah, so I hope all that made sense. But the point is just that not having what I needed to teach people what they needed to know so that they can learn and then share that with others, whether
Yeah.
it's like teaching other people, are really more like for this young man talking about suicide,
Yeah.
and making it real to that population of college students, was just, I mean, he did a lot of great work. And a lot of my students did a lot of just rock star work. And I'm not bragging on them. I am bragging on them.
Yeah.
But it was really more just the way that we were able to do things when we didn't have what we needed to do them.
Yeah.
But they still made great artwork that they wouldn't imagine that they would have been able to do. And they didn't have what they were supposed to have to do it.
Yes.
In my mind, that's resiliency.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because it's not just getting through or getting it done, get her done. It's
Yeah.
also adapting to the situation, the circumstances, the resources, the
Yeah.
things. And then also salute and kudos to you as a leader, not framing every step of the way that they do things, but saying, here is the goal, and you figure it out and do it in an ethical manner and get through to it. Like, you see them be their best selves, and you didn't sculpt every little thing they did. You gave them an end state, and you trusted they're going to get there, but they have to be resilient in doing that. But then such a subject of this topic of the young man who did that, he's expressing like resiliency to its finest and how he carried out, and then such an impactful message to, I'm just picturing in my head, I'm picturing being in Old Dirty Underwear, right? and being at their student center, and I'm picturing how that would play out, because you would at first go, what is this dude doing? Like, he's handing out pieces of paper, like just randomly. But if you start watching what he's doing, he's the shell casings of an outlined body. That is, and then obviously the most, I don't want to even say effective, but the most lethal means is by gunshot. And that's what most males of certain ages choose or elect to utilize, to use in their attempts, and obviously death by suicide cases. But that's powerful. That just hit me, because I just got the whole mental picture of how you laid that out. And that's that's literally what they call like poetry in motion, art in motion. Like, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
I didn't understand. I didn't understand everybody. I didn't understand what conceptual artist was, but that's dope, as they say, the kids say.
Yeah, and I use the term dope, and even my therapy work, like when I've had clients just make these eureka moments when the work we've been doing for weeks and months and years, and they make the connection, and I call it, that's therapeutically dope. And what's funny is, and they love it. I work with them. I work with a retired Army vet who, like, he would love when I would say that. He would also use it, give it back to me. And it's funny because there's one time I used it when I worked at a military hospital, and our service chief just, I don't know how this person got this job, but I mentioned that in a treatment team meeting, and he just looked at me and threw me this nasty look, like, just like, what are you talking about? You will
That's not appropriate.
and I was just kind of like, in my mind, I was like, yeah. Being an artist, being an art therapist, like you're used to confrontation. You're not really confrontation, but really more so people who either don't know what you do, don't know the power of what you do, so they instantly poo poo it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's just, I just find it hilarious
Yes.
because I've been through it enough to know, I know that art saves lives. People who are
Ooh, y'all heard,
really,
hashtag art saves lives. I'm sorry to cut you off, but
no,
art
no.
saves lives.
And the thing is, people who are open to seeing how art saves lives, they get it. They get it. You don't have to understand it, but if you've ever been with someone who writes music, who dances, who cooks, who is a whiz at, aesthetics with like makeup or design or whatever it is, we know that art saves lives.
Hmm.
And so it's just whenever I get static for thinking outside of the box, or for me is art is part of life. A lot of things that we do is art. So art isn't just like something I learned in school or something I have to be trained to do. We all live our life, with some form of artistry.
Most
And so
definitely.
when you use art as a resiliency tool, um, I mean, it saves lives.
It
And,
does.
in my mind, when I just mentioned the work of this student, who knows how many lives were saved by what he was doing that
Yes.
day, walking through the student center, just on your way to class or whatever it is. And you saw this weird performance art piece, but it got your attention. It
Hmm.
stuck out in your head, and you weren't even there 20 plus years
No, I'm
ago,
still feeling it
and
though. I
you're
felt
still
it. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, all I say all that to say, it's like, there's also that resiliency that comes from people who are trying to mold you into what they want you to be.
Hmm.
And for some of us, we may still be trying to please our parents or a significant other or our bosses or what have you. But it's like, is that giving you the ability to be yourself, or is it making you not be able to be yourself? Because your
Yes.
spirit's going to know it.
Yes.
And so it's like the resiliency of learning how, cherishing how, being yourself in environments that that you thrive in, that are set up for you to thrive in, and being yourself in environments that are anti who you are.
Yeah.
And still having to deal with the learn to be resilient in those spaces, which
Yes.
can be
Because you
challenging.
still got to survive. And then we all know a good form of art is comedy, and we all
Oh
remember
yeah.
Chappelle's show when keeping it real goes wrong.
Yeah,
So you,
yeah, exactly. So it's like you got to keep it real, but figure out how could I stay employed
yeah, 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 yeah,
when I'm keeping it real. So the way that I'm keeping it real and being resilient
yeah.
doesn't get me fired.
That's
So
right. I'm just. She said art. I'm just trying to share, express. Well, you took it too far. Okay, there can always be that, and you'll be painfully reminded of that. But also, like the therapeutically dope. I like that because you therapeutically getting some dopamine, and I think that's the root of
see,
where dope come from. So that's what people seek when they used to get high. They be seeking that dopamine hit, so they call it dope. And I'm just, I like words and how they evolve
exactly.
and
So I'm
such.
obsessed with words. This is why I'm a
Hmm.
conceptual artist, because when because back in the day, those of us who remember when dope was like cool, all that, the
Yeah,
shit,
yeah,
fire, whatever the kids,
yeah.
it's lit, whatever. Like that's what it was,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's like, I just think it's therapeutically dope when you have
Yeah.
a client who like gets it, when you've been working so hard with them for however long, and they've been working hard, and you're like, all right, and they finally get it, and they're like, they see it, and I'm like, that is therapeutically dope. And so working with my clients, there's some clients I've been recently working with, and I know that several of them would use art. They wouldn't use art all the time, but I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, here's just another tool in your kit.
Hmm.
And for those of you out there, you don't have to be an art therapist to use art in your clinical work. Or you don't have to be a therapist to use art in your own work, because there's therapeutic artwork. There's artwork that people make that just has a therapeutic benefit, which is what
Yeah.
Cam does with his comedy and the other different things that he does. But it's really interesting to see how, when I work with clients, once the defenses go down, because if you think about it, people generally stop making art around 15, 16.
Hmm.
And so when I would do groups in like hospitals or whatever, or wherever I was working, I remember I specifically was working in a civilian psych facility, and I would come on the unit, and they're like, "Oh hell, here come the art lady," and so I would giggle because I'm like, "You're on a locked unit,
Yeah.
and so there's only one way in here. You can't get out. So I'm gonna go down to the back of the hall and be ready to do group. It's not like you can run from me." So
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
like, you do you. It's, you can't escape this.
Yeah.
But what would be funny is that after they're like, "Oh, I don't know how this goes, whatever," they would be the ones who would go get people, "Hey y'all, it's time for art therapy." I mean, it was like the
Mm.
medicine that cures itself. It was a
Yes.
thing that did
Yes.
its own thing. But and then they would come in, and other people would come in, and they didn't even have to make art. But once they I bring all this up to say that you have to help people with art therapy. And I think with either expressive therapy or whatever therapeutic tool that you're using, that people are going to be somewhat anxious about, finding ways to remove that anxiety or at least decrease it.
Yeah.
And so when you're able to do that, then people just flourish.
Yeah.
And I've seen it a thousand, like, a couple of thousand times. And so it's just amazing for these clients that I've been working with and clients I've worked with in a variety of places go to the art. Well, let me figure out what this looks like. Or, I had a client who had who lost their pet a year ago, and it was traumatizing. And so we would talk about, well, what does this grief look like? Or they would create artwork on their own, and we would bring it to therapy and we
Hmm.
would talk about it. And so there was to the point where I didn't have to initiate it. They're like, well, I'm going to do some art therapy, I'm going to take a look at this and illustrate it. And so one of my clients, art became their lifeline.
Wow.
And so just to see them after like 4 years, I mean, they go automatically to art. They
Yeah.
were someone who was a poly trauma survivor. They had sexual abuse, emotional abuse. Um, they grew up with a parent who was alcoholic, and they also had a parent who was a narcissist.
Hmm.
So they had all that on them growing up. And then they partnered with someone who was also abusive. They worked in systems that were abusive, racially, ethnically, gender based violence or workplace hostility. And so, in my mind, as the therapist, I'm like, how am I going to help this person with
Yeah.
all of that? But then I realized that if I could just spend time with them
Yeah.
and just have them talk about what is going on with them, and like, hey, try this art thing.
Hmm.
And so after working with this person for 4 years, art was like breathing to them. They would go, they had no fear. They would go, they would try painting, they would try working with clay, they would try fabric, they would do whatever they needed to do
Hmm.
to figure out how to express their feelings in these sometimes terrible moments that they had been through. And I'm like, and this is someone who didn't consider themselves an artist,
Yes. Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
became an artist through the process of using art for their healing and working through these traumas.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, I've not seen that before.
Wow. That's wow. Look, our clocks just changed, so I didn't do my light game. I'm gonna click the light real quick. But what I think is so cool there, and I just, if you don't mind
Hmm.
sharing, because I'm not. They did the work. They put forth the effort. They took initiative.
Hmm.
But you were that spark. You know what I mean? Like, how
Hmm.
does that feel for you as a leader,
It's
as a person that I know wants to have a good effect in this world? How does that feel for you? And I'm only getting up because I'm gonna turn on the lights because the sun is going down. Because now it's bringing East Coast. Won't get all dark at like
dark three
early in the
o'clock.
daytime.
Yeah. No, I tell you, Cam, it's almost it's like it's amazing because I was telling another client that I work with who's an army vet who walked into so I managed an art studio in addition to providing art therapy. It's like it feels good every time. It feels like the first time every time
Wow.
because I'm never expecting it. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
do stuff to get accolades. But whenever a client naturally goes to art or like they come up with something that's therapeutically dope, you're just like, whoa, because I always in my mind of like, I'm just a conduit. I'm like a speed bump to your recovery.
Mm-hmm.
You got a lot of speed bumps to your recovery, or I think about therapy as like opening a mason jar. And so every provider you come across just kind of like opens twists the lid a little bit. And so that's helping you move. And then at some point you get to the therapist that or the provider who takes the lid off.
Mm.
And so it's like it's a process, it's a
Yeah.
journey. And so whenever I've had clients tell that to me, I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah.
Because I'm just doing the work. Sometimes I get caught up in the logistics of things. I
Yeah.
gotta
Yeah.
come in, I gotta assess for suicide, or I'm starting my session. How are you doing? How are you feeling? Blah 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 blah. But then when they say, I even had a client on a psych facility. I didn't. She wrote this down on a piece of paper, but it was like, I appreciate your session. She said, thank you for helping me save my life.
Mm.
And I'm thinking when I do therapy, it's like I'm probably, even when I was teaching, it felt like me auditioning for stand up comedy because I would tell my clients, like, if you can get through my corny jokes and make good art, or really like if you can get through my corny jokes and get better, you've done two great things. Because I'm just sitting there, not clown or anything, but really like therapy doesn't have to be hard. Therapy doesn't
No.
have to be heavy. Like you can laugh.
Yes.
And so when these clients tell me things like that, or like, you thank you for helping me save my life. All I thought I did was like I have, as an expressive therapist who works in a hospital, most of the time you're doing 900 groups. You're
Hmm.
hopping around all the hospital all day doing groups. And so this is like one of several groups I did that day. But for them to not just think about that, they actually wrote it down on a piece of paper, like a comment card that I got later.
Hmm.
So to me, in my mind, whatever I did for them that day or whatever I provided to them that they, encountered and explored, it took it to that level for them. Wow. Because again, you're as an artist or someone who utilizes art, because you don't have to be an artist to use art, but using art and realizing that it saves lives. When
Yes.
people tell you it has saved their life, you're like, well, damn.
Yeah.
I thought I was just coming in, doing my thing, and going on to do the other 77
Yeah.
groups I got to do today. So that stuff is powerful. It can be
Yes.
addictive in a good way.
No, that's
Like,
it's beautiful. That hits
yeah.
all of the, you know, hierarchy of needs. Like you want that self-actualization. You want to know that you're having a purpose and making a difference. Most of us want that as human beings.
Mhm.
And I think there's a
Yeah.
craving for that and in a sense of giving back to the tribe or the network. So, to me, you're a very wealthy human because, as I got right here,
Mhm.
Jim Carrey, what a great artist, right? And damn, is
Mhm.
he physical art in a lot of
Yeah,
ways,
yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. And not only did you have an effect, but what I love in the verbiage of what you just described from that young lady was not thank you for saving my life. No, thank you for helping me save my life. Helping me save my life.
Yeah.
Like that is what it's all about, y'all. Like it's not just, okay, we stop the bleeding, we save some. No,
Mhm.
now you give someone a confidence, a skill set, and awareness to now go forward and save their own life, right? And help
Mhm.
them. Dr. Craig Bryan said it, to do suicide prevention well, we need to do more than just stop people from dying. We want to stop people from dying, but we also have to help them live a life worth living, to thrive, as you said.
Yeah.
And art can
Yeah.
do that. And I just imagine with the men's groups, especially because for years, dude, like you see me now, I'm all like, oh my God, I got my art background and I wrote a book, everybody, and I do comedy and I'm just poetic. There was years I held that back because I felt like I was this tough dude who I liked to do combat sports and I was this Marine drill instructor guy. Like being a drill instructor is art. You're just playing one
Mhm.
role most of the time. It's about three different roles, but I can go down to another tangent. But the point is that I think a lot of us, male specific, majority in my experience, I see males look at art of any sort and go, man, that's some foo shit, man. I ain't doing that shit, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Man, that's some punk ass shit. I ain't doing no damn. What would you want me to do? Finger painting and shit? I did that shit, right? But it's like almost like playing outside or going to the playground or having recess. Like
Mhm.
after that 15, 16, probably younger for recess, like we just don't play no more as adults.
Mhm.
And that energy just, what do? We got to go hang out with people we work with that maybe sometimes you're blessed that you like, but sometimes you don't, and like I think people have a hard time tapping into that because you got your guard up and you like, I ain't no artist, dog. What I look like? I ain't Elton John, dog. Like,
Mhm.
so if you're not Elton John, you're just not an artist at all. And I think a lot of males specifically throw
Mhm.
the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, and I will tell you that because again, it's not always been a bed of roses as an art therapist. Even teaching too, and I know as an art therapist, a lot of times people may not know what it is. Because I remember there's times where I've worked in places where someone's like, "Oh, are you just like drawing happy pictures and shit, whatever?" And I'm just like, you don't know what this is.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
depending on if I don't have time to tell you about it, I'm just like, well, the universe, life will turn you around about what this is.
yeah.
But as a therapist, as anything in life, you're going to come across resistance. And I remember when I did groups for IOP, which is um, intensive outpatient programs. So usually it deals with substance misusers, and so that tends to be a resistant population. And I get it. It's again, obviously dealing with substance misuse or substance abuse is tough. And so in my mind, sometimes when people try to give me static, and I realize that I can have more empathy when I'm working with clients who are showing resistance, and sometimes they may be disrespectful. But because you have to look at it as it's not about you, is
Hmm.
that this is a person who struggles with certain things as to why they use substances. So I have to look at the behavior
Yeah.
and not the person
Yeah.
at the moment, and so like in my mind, so I will ask them like, hey, I think I understand it might be a little uncomfortable to have to be asked to draw this picture, to do something that you may not feel comfortable with, but where is this, what is this discomfort really about? Because
Hmm.
a lot of times it's like, so this person wants me to do something that I know I'm not good at doing, which therefore is meaning it's going to make me feel embarrassed, and I can't be embarrassed because I was, heckled, bullied, ridiculed when I tried to do
And I'm already
something.
embarrassed because my behavior as an addict, because my whole
Yeah,
family's disowned me. Cause yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm gonna add to
So
that with my ugly
yeah,
picture.
exactly. So really, and at least in a therapeutic context, and I think even outside of it, but as a therapist, when I've run into resistance, I've had to figure out, in that moment, what's really behind this resistance.
Mhm.
I know it's fear. I know it's pain. I know it's, I may not want to draw my feelings because I don't know what's going to come out. Because when you're
Mm.
doing expressive therapy, you're really asking people to poke around in their psyche, and a lot of times what comes up in the artwork, is like, it's, am I ready to deal with what I just drew or what I just sculpted or what I just made a collage of? And so that's why it's important. What I learned quickly was when I walked on a unit or whenever I walked into a space, I have to find a way to make that space a trusted space
Hmm.
automatically, because I can't ask somebody to like, well, let's, draw this picture, and let's say they pull up something that is disturbing for them that they haven't really thought about or dealt with. I can't open you up and they're like, all right, y'all, it's been real. See you next week, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Because no good therapist is going to leave somebody open or leave that trauma there. I'm going to have to work with you in the group, obviously rely on the group to support them. I'm going to meet you after at the
Yes.
end of the group so I could help contain you
Yeah. Yeah.
before you walk out of this room. So again, not only does art save lives, art therapy saves lives, it's really about using these tools is something that you have to understand what you're doing
Hmm.
as a therapist,
Yeah.
because you can be opening somebody up to something that they're not ready to deal with, and you have to, obviously this is why art therapists were trained, in art making as well as counseling.
Hmm.
You have to know how to help that person recontain themselves before they leave your space or leave the group. But I will say again, going back to what I was saying earlier, in that context, it's easier for me to see where the resistance is and why, male clients or certain female clients or someone, whatever is going on, there's a reason why they are being resistant. And
Hmm.
so one of my favorite art therapy supervisors would tell me, go with the resistance. And so that's what I would do with it. Like, okay, well, I know that it seems like, you may be a little hesitant to get started on that. Where do you think that might be coming from?
Hmm.
How else do you deal with this? Is this something that, is part of your addiction? When you become uncomfortable or feel unsafe or insecure, is this one of the reasons why you might use? And when you hit them with that logic, they're like, oh, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
So I guess subconsciously or unconsciously that is what might be going on until you bring the subconscious to the conscious.
Yeah.
Then they're like, okay, I didn't realize that it was about, my fear, or not wanting to look bad or want people
Hmm.
to laugh at me.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, hey, dude, it happens.
Hmm.
Then go on back to my dad, where I am in the room to help them, to continue running the group. But yeah, that resistance is there for a reason,
Hmm.
and I get it. Again, what I've learned as a therapist, and specifically working in psych facility, is I put myself in their shoes. What would it be like, even in a context where I'm on a unit, I've been here because I'm having some psychological crisis. I can't leave the unit. I don't have access to anything that I could harm myself. I don't have shoelaces. I don't have a belt. The room is stripped down. Hopefully, one of the mental health techs or the nurses or somebody who comes on the unit will let us go outside, because where I used to, one place I worked, there was like a patio at the end of the hall at the end of the unit. And so in my mind, I'm like, I'm not just coming here to do a group and then go back and then leave at the end of the day, because I can leave, I can walk through this whole space. But it's really about how do I, and in order for me to build that trust with
Yeah.
the client, as I was talking about, You got to go in there as a humble vessel. You
Mm.
can't go in there as like, oh, I know this all and I'm going to teach you how to fix yourself and such, because some therapists do that.
Yeah.
And you may, unfortunately, you all out there, you might have had a therapist who felt like there was something wrong with you and you needed to be fixed, and they had the answer and they were going to save you. And I'm like, that is so counterproductive. That is
Hmm.
not helpful. That's all about you. It's not about them.
Yeah. That's self-discovery
Yeah, yeah. And I'm
through
just
you being
like,
a guide and a leader
yeah,
to
yeah.
guide
Like
them.
you,
Yeah.
again, I'm a speed bump to your recovery.
Yeah.
Take from this whatever you will. I'm not here, because it's just. And I would see people who have therapists who would have this savior complex, and I'm like, this is so not about you right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just think that's dangerous,
Yeah.
because that's when we meet our clients, especially when you're working on inpatient units, we're meeting people who are not at their best.
Hmm.
And so you've got to be in a space to realize that. Like, how are you when you're not at your best? How do you want somebody treating you when you're having a rough
I think
day?
they
Or
call that empathy. I don't.
yeah,
Is that?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I
that
don't. It's a
rhymes
thing.
with
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Not sympathy, not
No,
pity, but
no.
empathy.
Empathy. Like, and
Yes.
again, it's as easy as we know this to be. It is not always easy for people to emulate or to do. And I will tell you, there are some clients who I wanted to tie in a knot, because they
Now
either
we're getting real,
they wouldn't
yeah.
sit still, or they're constantly in the back talking, or they're on that damn cell phone. And so it's like, and it's a day where I got 59 groups to do and whatever. And I'm like, all right, Jan, you have to take a moment and breathe. And again, it's always about meeting people where they are. And
Hmm.
granted, it's not like it's cool for a client to be disrespectful in a
Right,
group.
right, right.
So you're gonna have to call that out. And
We
there's
don't want to
times where I did.
enable, but I
Yeah,
want to meet you where
yeah,
you at.
yeah, yeah. So, but again, once you are able to, again, meet that client where they are, be real, because even with adolescents, teens, anybody who's taught adolescents and teenagers, they smell fear. They also know when you're not legitimate. They can peep that out really quickly. So again, it's the keeping it real factor,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And so, but yeah, definitely when you're able to understand where that resistance comes from, put it on the client,
Yeah.
and then they're like, okay, I get it. And when I've done that with adolescents, when I've done that with adults, they listen,
Hmm.
because I'm like, maybe they've been the problem child, or they've been labeled the problem child. I'm like, well, why does that child have problems? What is causing that child
That's right.
or that adult to act out? A lot of times it's like, oh, you're just a bad kid, or you're bad whomever. Like,
Yep.
no, something happened to this human. It's not there. It's not. I think Oprah had some book that came out some period of time ago. It's like, instead of asking people what's wrong, it's really more like, what happened to them.
That's wow. Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah,
And I definitely, and someone who wants to help people, I can see
yeah.
myself. That savior complex is real, and unintentionally, people probably
Hmm.
do it with good
Yeah.
hearts, but you just want to help people. And to me, I love how you're expanding on this, because I'm always constantly trying to say art saves lives. But I also know that some forms of art aren't for certain people, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one thing that reminded me too is where you said that they may not want to draw something, they may not want to express something in whatever the tangible channel is, the outlet, right? Whether it's drawing or sculpting or something. But also, I had a therapist, Dr. Tom, I love you. One of the only people the only professional I ever spoke to that got me on medication and got me to
Mhm.
stay with it and reframed it and met me where I was and helped me with my perspective. And I'm still around, and I'd say thriving to some degree in life.
Yeah.
And
Thriving well.
but what he said is, Cam, you can go down those roads and go down those roads, those back alleys, but I don't want you to go down there alone. And
Hmm.
when you do go down there, just picture it like you're going to get jumped to this
Mm.
extent, and you shouldn't walk down that alley or that street by yourself. We'll go over it together, and we'll walk down there together. So when we leave like this session, don't ruminate. Don't
Hmm.
try to go down these roads by yourself. Whatever. Just the analogy. He was so good at analogies
Yeah. Yeah.
of how to make me understand, like, okay, not block it out, not avoidance, but at the same
Hmm.
time, like a respect to, I don't need to be going down here by myself. And it's to the same to me. I'm picturing, somebody you saying draw something. They're like, I'm not drawing that. Or come back, y'all, at the next session and draw this on this. And they're like, I'm not doing that because that's going to awaken something in me. But okay, cool. So when you do draw that or you do express that, whether it's through art or your mouth or whatever,
Hmm.
I'll be there with you. And that's what I heard you describe. And I just think it's so cool
Yeah.
because some people, you if you've been through things, whether it's trauma or just really what you said, what Oprah said, what happened to you, you're human. You're going to defend yourself. You're going to protect yourself. That's why we have
Mhm.
anxiety. That's why we have the alertness. If something loud happens, we automatically, that's
Mhm.
just human nature.
Yeah.
But then when you actually have like tangible trauma to associate and attach to that, you don't feel safe.
Mm-mm.
And your responses may be to, I
Lash
mean,
out.
and you may be in your head, I've been there, like a cat in the corner, and
Mhm.
that cat in the corner fit an attack, and now the cat looks like, oh, they're bad, but it's like you put them in the corner, and you
Yes.
already know that cat has trauma, like, or somebody goes to raise their hand at a dog that had been through some background. If you got it from SPCA because they told you this is an abused dog, who's the idiot? You raising your
Yeah.
hand or that dog? But now who looks like the asshole? That dog or that cat or that person in
Mhm.
that situation. But you provoked that. And I think there's a certain responsibility that people, what you were in a leadership position in that moment, or just being around people, it to be not tiptoeing, not pandering, not coddling, not
Yeah.
babying, but being conscious that everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about.
Yeah.
So that kindness and the therapy in it. Speaking of Robin Williams, you know, you want people to, there was something effective in what Dr. Patch Adams was doing in that movie,
Mhm.
but the old head warden from the Shawshank Redemption always plays an asshole too. That guy, you know what I'm talking about? That doctor that ran the little
Yeah.
school,
Mhm.
he was that asshole that's like, nah, it has to be like this. And you tell them the treatment plan. And you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like those
Yeah.
types of people. But no, like Patch Adams
Not gonna
saw,
work.
I'm trying to just give you medicine. And this is
Mhm.
art or humor or whatever the thing is, but that connection with another human. I don't know that. I don't know. I hope all that diarrhea just made sense. But
No, it does make sense as someone whose mind works like a multi-disc CD changer. And like
it
certain CDs are
does.
dropping and certain singles off the CD are dropping at the same time. So if it makes sense, just glean from whatever this that I'm saying too. But no, you bring up a lot of good points. And the thing is, like, I went to art school. I went back to grad school many years later, to become a therapist. And it's like when I was in art school, one of the main things you do as an artist to support yourself is to teach, right?
Hmm.
While you're pursuing your, art career. And so, but, at least my grad program, but I don't think any grad program really teaches you how to teach. I had
Mm.
to learn how to teach. I had to learn how people learn,
Hmm.
because the way, if I started out with like, oh, well, I learned about this new artist and this theory, whatever. And I brought all that back to the program that I went to as an undergrad that didn't give me that.
So
And so,
PowerPoint was the most effective you learned, right? Of how to
yeah,
teach? No, I'm kidding.
you're insane. So it's really like a life size PowerPoint, right? But different. It's a PowerPoint that moves and shifts and has
Yeah.
graphics and doesn't have a lot of text on the slide.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something,
Yeah.
because you got to meet people where they were. And
Yeah.
so one of my friends who's a Vietnam veteran, and she never talks about her Vietnam career, but her work. She never talks about her military experience, and I know why. My dad's a Vietnam veteran. I know why they don't talk about it. But this is a black female I believe she was in the army, and she served in Vietnam. And she taught in a business college. And she and I, we went to the same church. And so I'm on fire back from grad school trying to get these students to learn. Why don't they want to read this? Why don't they want to look at these art magazines? And she gave me one of the best pieces of advice that I needed to learn how to teach, which carried into me becoming a therapist. She was like, not everybody in your classroom is going to be overzealous about art, or the people in your group, or your whatever you're doing therapy wise, that I learned later. Not all of them want to be there.
Mm.
Okay, in terms of the classroom setting, most of the people are just trying to get a C.
Hmm.
This is my requirement. I got to be in here for a couple of times a week
Check that box.
I just got to be here. And then you got like some people who are going to love everything you have to give them, and they're going to want more because they're hungry for it. Then you always going to have one or two people in the class that's going to hate whatever you do, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to be upset with it, roll their eyes, whatever. And she said, "This is your classroom." And when she told me that, she's like, and she also said, like, just give everybody C-level interaction. With the people who want more, go above and beyond for them. The people who just want C-level interaction, just give them C-level interaction. Same for the two people in the corner that are just going to hate and poo-poo everything you said.
Hmm.
That saved my teaching life. That saved me from doing all this stuff and making these elaborate lectures and whatever. When people just like, all right, y'all, here's a design problem. Here's the method. Here's what you're going to need to do. Sketches, research, critiques, models is due. This is when the mini critique is. This is when it's due. Go forth and conquer. And when I learned how to teach, which is really how I developed an interest in instructional design, this is what made things work well. And then I had to figure out, well, how do you grade art? So I had to come up with a scoring rubric because
Yeah.
I was just jotting down stuff and they're like, well, how did you come up with this grade? And I'm like, all right. So I had to take a workshop. How do I do what I needed to do? Because I wanted to make sure students knew what I was grading them
Like
on.
you wanted your people to understand the expectation.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but did they mandate you go to this?
No, did it on
You,
my own. Because,
again, to my
yeah,
point earlier,
yeah.
seeking self-approval and going, I don't know the answer, but maybe I can go find it.
Yeah,
That's
because it's all about I need people to learn and
yeah.
people want to learn and do well. I want to create a system that really I created a system that you would have to work hard to fail in
Mm-hmm.
because I built it in to help you, to help you do it well and also get your feedback on what I need to do to improve on myself because not every leader is going to do that. Not all therapists, not all educators, not all leaders, not all whomevers want their the people that they serve to tell them what they need to do differently. But I've always learned in every profession or whatever it is I'm doing, I have to humble myself to the people that I'm working with, that servant leader thing. And so, even if it's something I don't want to hear, if it's going to help you learn better, if it's going to help you get better as a client, if it's going to help you move through some of the roadblocks you're facing, by all means, let me know what I'm doing that's working, what's not working, and let me know how I can improve it
Mm-hmm.
because I'm all about how do I improve the system so it's
Yeah.
better for the next person. And so, that work, so that way of thinking, worked well in the classroom. And then when I was a therapist, it's like, okay, not everybody in here wants to be in here.
Uh-huh.
And you can see it in their eyes when you come on a unit or you come in the program. And so, and I would meet people where they were because when I worked on a psych ward, civilian ones and military ones, when I'm on that group, when I'm on that unit, they probably just got the medication. Some of the medication makes them feel drowsy, make their
Yeah,
thoughts
yeah, yeah.
feel clear. They're just waking up. They may have to go see the judge if they were here on a TDO. They're trying to get with their caseworker. They got a whole host of things
Plus,
going
like a new
on.
med inside of them
A
too,
new
and
med
it's
inside
not even
them.
having really like the effects
Yeah,
because it's got to take
yeah.
time to build up. Yeah,
Exactly. And so I can't walk into the unit or the unit and be like, all right, we're time to do art therapy. Let's talk about this. Why are you in a corner sleeping? Why are you look like you have your heads in the cloud? It's like, because again, it's not about me.
Where's your enthusiasm? I'm high right now.
So I'm like, all right, exactly, right. So I'm like, all right, you look like you're somewhere else. That's great. You don't have to actually sometimes do the activity, but being in the room where the action is happening.
Yeah.
So you really have to learn that, I have to meet these folks where they are. And a lot of times when you're working on an inpatient units, because the hospital that I worked in, there were 3 adult inpatient units, an adolescent unit. We had IOP program and an adult partial and an adolescent partial. And so the inpatient units, most of the time I didn't know what I was going to walk into. So this is why I talk about, work resilience again. And then also, clients, with the resiliencies that they're trying to build as the therapist, one of the team of therapists who come on the unit. And so sometimes, if it's a full moon, anybody of you all out there who's worked at a psych facility and it's a full moon, the block is hot. I mean, it's just people.
That's not full moon.
Yeah, I mean, when it's
Yeah.
a full moon, wild stuff going down. But anyway, so again, as a provider, there's a lot that's going on as a therapist there, as a therapist, an art therapist, human being, whatever it is. And so definitely understanding where my clients were, even if on an inpatient unit where you may not know if you see that person again. That may be the
Yeah.
only time that 1 hour lifeline. You may not know if you see that person again, but you're trying to figure out how do I create at least a safe space, understand them, provide empathy, teach them whatever I need them to do art wise, and then they're off and then they leave the room. So it's a lot that goes into an art therapy session. Since I'm a expressive arts professional. A lot of times when people say, "Oh, y'all just drawing pretty pictures," from what I've just described, in the past 20, 30 minutes of talking, there's tons more happening
Yeah.
in that
Layers,
session.
layers, and
People
layers.
don't get it. And
Yeah.
I get that, but like pick up a book, go on YouTube, whatever, figure some stuff out
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's a whole lot going on
Yeah.
in that session other than just drawing pretty pictures.
Yes. No. And no. And I appreciate you sharing that because even though I say it, art saves lives. Nobody's ever called my bluff. Either they accept it or they know it, but you just broke down the how and the why that statement has such power. And I'll do a little plug real quick for an organization I'm aware of, and please, anything you want to plug, please do.
Yeah, yeah.
But Armed Services Arts Partnership,
Mm-hmm.
everybody. That's asap.org. I've talked about it before, but they do comedy classes, they do
Mm-hmm.
acting, they do improv, there's people that get together musically, how to author, how to write, there's poetry classes, and there's also classes that they offer too, where a professional like Miss Yan will come through and show you a different outlet or channel of
Mm-hmm.
art. It's just there's abundance of options, and maybe you'll try one thing and you're like, I don't really like this, but you don't know until you try something, and you don't know until you allow yourself to unlock or to express yourself to where it may be the thing that you've been missing or the thing that can help push you to that next level for you. So that's one organization that I know for veterans, families, and caregivers. Whether you're active or you served them whenever or whatever like that, you can qualify. asap.org. And you do virtual classes, you can do in-person classes. If nothing else, you're meeting other people, you're learning from people with pretty decent perspectives, and you're
Mm-hmm.
connecting to a tribe. And so I plug that one. And by all means, if there's anything that you would want to
Yeah,
plug,
yeah.
any organizations, or because a lot of times it's not, you're getting the what of what we're speaking on, you're getting, I hope, what Miss Yan is describing of the how and why these things are effective. But now you're like, well, where do I start?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there's just one option right there. Armed Services Arts Partnership. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Cam, because I've also had an opportunity to run a military and the arts program. We had an open studio for veterans every Saturday, and like one of the Saturdays in the month, it was for families. And so, definitely, we know that art saves lives. I just recently saw another webinar about expressive arts and suicide prevention, and so really good webinar. I'm going to dig into all the articles that the presenter brought up, but she also talked about the neurobiology behind using expressive arts, and
Mm-hmm.
she was saying how it reduces cortisol. Okay, because we know that when people are in chaos or in crisis, that cortisol, those stress hormones are
Stress,
off,
stress,
are
stress.
on
Yeah.
point. So it reduces cortisol, but it boosts dopamine and serotonin. This
That's
is
dope.
why. Exactly. See, there we go again, right? See, it's like just on this cool vibe, but the therapeutically dope, and then years later you come and bring me that knowledge too. And so again, so it's whenever somebody's creating, and it doesn't have to be visual art. It could be dance, it could be writing, it could be comedy, poetry. It could be writing music, listening to music, yoga, whatever it is, gardening.
Podcasting.
Putting together some kind of fashion ensemble. It makes you feel good, which is going to improve your mood. So there's tons of research on why expressive art in general, um, saves lives, because it reduces that cortisol and it boosts that dopamine and that serotonin
Mm.
naturally just by creating something. And so I'm trying to backtrack to what I was going with this. Maybe you can help me, Cam, because I'm getting older.
No, we're
I
all
go down
good.
streets and then I'm like, where was I going? But something about, oh yeah, okay,
The
gotcha.
webinar and the
Yeah,
articles.
webinar and art. There we go. Just I need little
Yeah,
bits of
I
things to
love
get
it.
back on track.
I love it though. Kanye said
Yeah,
that. Okay.
I know, right? And so mission belonging is
Mission
and
belonging.
yeah, so they used to be called community building artworks, but they just changed their name to mission belonging. They're another virtual military in the arts creative workshop program. They're a nonprofit. I think they're headquartered maybe in like the DC area, but they provide writing and visual art and music workshops for military, regardless of your status, your caregivers. They also provide this to healthcare workers, first responders, and community members who are interested in supporting the military community. And so a lot of they have veterans who are also artists who will do like monthly or weekly open studios. And so all you got to do is sign up. Everything is free. Some of their workshops may have a little bit may have a small cost to it because they're either raising money for their
Right.
organization, but it's another organization who focuses on, who believes in, they're all about, they know obviously how art saves lives, and not only does it saves lives, but it builds community.
Builds community.
It builds camaraderie. And so, because again, we talk a lot about my work with veterans. It's like, things, it's going to be, you already know that when you leave the service, the camaraderie, the brotherhood, the sisterhood is not going to be the same when
Correct.
you separate. And so using art, the arts, performing literary and visual to help you create those communities is powerful. And I had an awesome opportunity to run a program where through the open studios, and then this is where the veterans would come in, and it didn't matter if they didn't know how to draw something. It was more about, I want to hang out with people who get me, who
Ooh,
understand me. I don't have to explain myself to them. They
yes.
didn't have to create anything. They could just come and hang out. And so I would demo some art technique, and then I would have somebody else come in and do something that the veterans and their families were interested in. And like, you had people coming for a long time. I was only at this organization for about like 2 years before I moved on. But it was just amazing to see people who, and I've heard veterans say, it's the things when you're sitting with people, you don't have to say anything, but they get you.
Yes.
Because I realize that not even some of your family members don't know what you're going through,
It's true.
but other Marines, other service members, or other, military spouses, other military kids, we get it. It's
Or
like this
military
unspoken,
caregivers that
or
work
military
like
caregivers.
you, like that you provide
Yeah.
care within the military's frame.
Hmm.
There's things that you understand that the average person of your background educationally,
Yeah.
now you have this other like cultural skill set to where you can identify, not 100%, nobody's ever going to 100%
Yeah.
identify with any other
Yeah.
human, but you are now part of this tribe as well, and you get what we're laying down. You smell what we stepping in, right? You
Yeah.
scratching what we, like we getting on the same page. And that's a beautiful thing. And just so anybody doesn't know, I've said it many times, but it's proven that connection
Hmm.
is the strongest protective factor against a lot of harmful behaviors, but death by suicide specifically. Isn't that something? Connection. So if anything, like what she just described, what Miss Yon described is, people are sitting there, they don't really want to participate, but they're over there bullshitting on the side and chilling with people that are like-minded, are from similar backgrounds and things like that, or that you can feel authentic. You don't have to hide who you are. You don't have to feel like, oh, this is the corporate or the professional world where I have to talk all pretty and stuff like that. Again, when keeping it real goes wrong, it can always be a thing, right? I got to check myself all the time before I wreck myself. But for real though, like we all need that to where we can just be ourselves and people just accept us and they get us. And like you said, I don't even really got to say much, but you feel me, you get me, right? And that is what she's describing is missionbelonging.org, missionbelonging altogether.org. So that's another tangible tool that you all can look into. And maybe if not for you, maybe do it for the you that you bring to everybody else, or maybe someone could benefit from the asapasap.org or missionbelonging.org. This isn't just happy talk. We're giving real talk with real tangible resources.
Exactly, because it's all about, like, you guys are spending this time talking about the wonders of art, what it does for people, and how it
Yeah,
just
but now
changes
what?
lives and communities. But like, where do I go to get some of this? And
Yes,
so
yes.
definitely, these are two amazing programs. There's others out there like it, but definitely, and the cool thing about it being virtual, I know that some places do, actually in person things, but I think, sometimes with the virtual, you can reach people across the country.
That's
And
right.
so with Mission Belonging, like I did a workshop sometime last month, and I attend some of their other workshops, and I'm impressed to see that you got people from Texas, from Hawaii, from Washington State, who, just got a Zoom link and got their art materials, or got out their pen and paper to do some poetry or some writing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're from all over the country. And so, and they just were able to come in, connect, get some community, get to feel that community for that 1 hour or hour and a half or whatever it was. And then they went back, to their day. But it's powerful.
It is. And you never know those relationships that can transpire after that. I mean,
Yeah.
I've spoken on, I've expressed it here.
Mhm.
The comics that you're big fans of in this area
Yeah.
are I'm big fans of too, but are now friends of mine that through ASAP, right? I was
Mhm.
able to meet them, and then now I'm kind of like in a tribe, and I got
Mhm.
people that I can talk to. I was talking to a dude last night. He had just retired from active duty recently, and he's like, I'm here, man. And then the beautiful, awesome, and that's Keith Becker. I love Keith Becker, but also Monica Daly. She's a former soldier. Army of One, all that good stuff. Army veteran, but she
Mhm.
works with ASAP. But last night she hugged me, and she gave me one of them deep hugs. Where you release that oxytocin,
Mhm.
and she said, I can't tell you how much I love you and your family. And I just, man, Monica hugs are the shit. Hugs are the shit, period. But
Tactile.
that's
I
through,
call it tactile nourishment.
see what I'm saying?
Patent
Tactile
pending.
nourishment. Mm-hmm. but you need that. And you know, dope dealers or hope dealers, whatever you want to say, it's all about helping people be the best. Now, not literally dope dealers, we know. Okay, what we're saying is the therapeutical dope dealer. This is a therapeutical dope dealer right here.
Yeah, patent pending. So I'm charged
Oh
like a
man,
10% finder's fee on
no,
the use of that
yeah,
word.
yeah. That might be a
Insane.
soundbite and be like, "What was she into?" Oh my, no wonder she was always in a good mood. No,
Exactly,
but
right?
because art saves lives, everyone. But no, sincerely, I wouldn't even know Monica, right, if I didn't try an ASAP class. I met Miss Angie. I love you, Angie. I met Keith. I met all these people, and it transpired to other people to where, like, I literally have a dude I call my lighthouse, man, Isaac Ignacio, the hilarious Isaac Ignacio Bennett. I wouldn't even know him. So what I'm saying in that is that you go to this virtual thing, okay, an hour or whatever, you don't know who you connect with in there, and then that relationship grows to something else and souls to something else, and then man, now you in a whole nother tribe of other kooky people that are like you that you can identify with and be yourself, all of you, warts and all. Obviously, don't keep it too real because you'll get locked up. Okay, but
Yeah.
but you know what I'm saying. Did I make that point? I think
No,
I just
definitely,
word
yeah. Because
rambled.
again, it's just and I think about as an art therapist, our professional organization is called the American Association of Art Therapy, and I think it's Art Therapy, ARTTHERAPY.org.
Damn, that's a big ass acronym.
I know. I'm hoping I'm spelling that correctly. So
I
like
was trying to do math, and I was like,
arttherapies.org. And if you go to our website, like I think every now and then they change up our definition of what art therapy is. But when I looked at it years ago, it's more than what happens in that session. It's more about creating, awareness and insight and skill building, and it's also about creating community and building empathy and understanding and changing perspectives and also changing society.
mm-hmm.
Because again, when people come together to make art, whatever that art form is, you're creating community. You're finding a tribe. And kind of back to Cam's point about being in places where you don't have to explain yourself. I found that people, when folks are on an inpatient unit, they will share things with the people on the unit, people that they don't know. They'll share things with them that their family members who they know don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And they've told me, and I've seen it happen. Like, it's amazing how people on an inpatient unit who are there for all kinds of reasons, they will bond quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's some, unproductive bonding that happens. But the thing is, they feel so open and unjudged with the people on the unit who they do not know, and they feel less judged by them and more understood by them sometimes than they feel by their own family, people that
Yeah.
either gave birth to them or knew them.
Yeah.
So but definitely wherever you can find a community that supports whatever art form it is, and again, it's powerful. And just being someone who's either facilitated a group or facilitated the art experience, you can just stand back and see just how powerful it is. And for those veterans that I worked with, like, they would come all the time, and when somebody wasn't there, they're like, "Oh, have you heard from so and so? I haven't seen them." And it's just like, again, you all check in on each other, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just amazing how it's not nothing about that is accidental.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to, if you're the listener out there,
Mhm.
me listening to it and speaking it right now, we have to take that risk of being uncomfortable and maybe risking, being a little embarrassed or doing something awkward or something that really carries a stereotype to where you're like, I ain't no artist. Like, I don't be painting. Yeah, but do you like music? Right? Well, I
Mhm.
don't like I don't like country music. Does that mean you don't like music at all? I don't like that classical shit. Does that mean you don't like music? You get what I'm saying? Like, too often we black and white situations, and the world is filled with gray. And there's opportunities out there. And I've said this example before. If you like bowling or if you like fishing, you only know you like it because you did it at some point, probably with somebody else. And then you realize, hey, shit, I like this. And now I'm a bowler, I'm a fisherman, or whatever the thing may be. But if you'd have never been exposed to it, you would never even know it. So we only know what we know, and we don't know what we don't know. Don't be take a note from what Jan's talking about and the humility, and I keep stressing it, that even as accomplished as she is the effect she's had on others, as aware as she is, she's still seeking growth, and she's still taking webinars on how to better do this, not for maybe just herself, but also for the effect that she can have on others. That's beautiful, and I salute you for that.
No, thank you. I appreciate that, Cam, because partially because to keep my license, I have to take these
Oh shit!
CEs.
No, I'm playing. I'm playing.
But no, but I'm teasing you. But yeah, but other than that, it's really just about, I'm someone who like loves is obsessed with learning. And it's something that my mom instilled in me from when I was a kid, and so I think too, it's like putting yourselves in those uncomfortable moments because we don't grow in comfortable spaces.
Mm-mm.
I mean, and that's where the true growth comes from, and really where the resiliency comes from there. And so again, doing things afraid, like I don't know how these people are going to perceive me if I walk into this studio or walk into this workshop or click on this Zoom link. And again, it's more about you just exposing yourself to something that can help you or help others. Because again, you don't know until you try it. And again, it's just like Cam was saying, and there's times when I would not only when I was teaching, but also my work as a therapist, like I knew that not everybody's going to be in love with drawing. Not everybody's going to be in love with paint, but you may want to work with clay, or you might want to do writing. And so in my groups, I would do visual art, and I would also do writing. I would also have people physically doing things too,
Mm-hmm.
because if you think about it, some of you may have had a stint on an inpatient unit for a period of time, and there's definitely on the weekends when most of the providers are not there. You may be sitting down just watching TV all day, or thinking about what brought you there. And so I would like to get clients up and move, and I would actually did this little art therapy type basketball thing that related to your problems. I know that sounds weird, but it made sense at the time. And so I got them up, throwing paper balls into the trash can. I had them physically moving around the room because physical movement is also therapeutic. I would play music during my sessions. So if some people want to get up and dance, pop lock, worm, whatever it was, I'm like, do whatever makes you happy. And it makes people feel good. So again, it's not about you being a great poet or a great comedian or a great painter or a great dancer. It's like, let me just use these art skills as a tool.
That's right.
It's not about you having to be perfect or good at it. It's just let me use this to see how it can make me feel,
That's right.
and being open to trying those things out. And again, and nothing. I don't think failure gets a bad rap, because failure, quote unquote, just really teaches us one way it doesn't work, but then
Mm.
you can figure out how it can work a different way.
No, amen, amen. So that's
So
the first attempts in learning, and
yeah.
like Nelson Mandela said, he never fails. Really, he just either
Mhm.
wins or learns. That's what he
Yeah,
said, and
yeah,
and that's
yeah.
that's a good way to look at it. But try again, and
Mhm.
whatever the said thing may be, and you might realize you might know what you don't want to do now,
Mhm.
but you might figure out maybe what else you could want to do. But to put that energy somewhere, and too many of us are trying to maintain some image, some status quo that we think, or some stereotype or some prejudice that we think we're supposed to be or live up to as a this or as a that. You are a human being, and there's no way to describe you as one simple thing. You are a myriad of a million different things, all of us as unique as our fingerprint. So don't be afraid to express that. The worst thing you can do is suppress that and self-medicate and do the things that we know that will lead to more destructive things. And I just want to say, if you are sitting there going, well, that's how I deal with my problems, I drink or I do destructive things, like, how's that working out?
Mhm.
Right? And hasn't that taken enough from you? Why not try something different? Why not? You're here anyway. If we
Mhm.
weren't supposed to be here, we wouldn't be here. That's what I believe in my faith in a higher deity, is that if that power doesn't want us to be there, they'll make sure of it. Right. So while we are here, let's try to do it the best we can and try different things. And maybe you'll realize, I don't like no painting, but I got this cousin over here. I need to show this fool how to paint right quick, because this fool needs to do something with this. What I'm saying is, you take it and help somebody else with it. You never know what you may unlock. So don't be closed-minded, because closed mouths don't get fed and closed minds don't get fed neither. So I like what you said. You
Yes,
had that
indeed.
hunger for learning.
Yeah, and I think too, when you think, I'm glad you brought up the hand thing too, because if you think about it, how do we create spaces for people to do healthy, productive things with your hands? So creating something like, even with therapeutic horticulture, like you're digging in the ground, you're growing things. And so I've known people who either were therapeutic horticulturists, and
Hoarder,
they're
like you collect shit,
like,
or
no, horticulture,
oh
like
shit.
growing things and
I'm
whatnot.
learning. Hold up, y'all.
Yeah, yeah. And so, because I'm on my mind thinking, like, how would growing things be therapeutic? And so, I worked for this. agency in Hampton, like right when I got out of grad
Seven
school.
by seven.
Exactly right. And so they were an organization that they were providing different kind of therapeutic modalities for adolescents who had oppositional defiant disorder, had a lot of behavioral issues, or just aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had a horticulture, they had a garden. So they had people who were trained as horticulture therapists to help the youth do healthy things with their hands. They taught them about how to grow certain crops or certain vegetables, how do you maintain a garden throughout the year. So instead of using their hands for destructive things like self harm and harming others, they use their hands for a helpful purpose.
Mm.
And so it's not just, let me just throw some radish seeds in the ground real quick. It was more about the process of growing things and how they can learn how to grow things through their hands. Because I
Mm.
wonder a lot of times when it comes to people who have learned, had to learn, or however it came to be, using their hands for destructive purposes, like you mentioned, like hitting people, hitting others, abusing themselves, abusing others. And so, and this in my mind, it's like, how do we get people to do healthy things with their hands that are restorative, that are healing, that are productive? And through this particular agency, they had all kind of things for the kids. Like if kids had issues with anger, they were and help them sublimate, which just means how do you channel that anger into a healthy, productive way, as opposed
Mm.
to something that's destructive. They would teach them boxing lessons, and they would really learn the art of boxing and how it also could be cathartic, and it helped them use that anger in a different direction. So
Yes.
these were a great group of people down in the Hampton Roads area. I think it was Holistic Family Solutions.
Holistic family solutions.
Yeah. And so and they had all this great programming when I did some work for them years ago, about because they wanted to help teens and adolescents rely less on psychotropic medications. Now, granted, there's sometimes, neurochemistry, like whatever you're going through, sometimes you're going to need medication to rebalance the neurochemistry of your brain. If there's some chemicals you're just not that are not where they need to be, like medicine has its
That's
purpose,
right.
but also you got to learn how to cope. And
Yeah.
so this organization did an amazing job with a wide variety of services for teens in the unit thinking military, but kids who needed help, to help them be less aggressive and really be able to problem solve in different ways. So
No,
yeah,
that's beautiful. It really is, and it's called Holistic Family Solutions, right? I
yeah,
think they're still around.
yeah,
I don't have a
yeah.
Jamie. I'm not Joe Rogan. I don't have a Jamie, so I just do this stuff
You're
on my
so
own
funny.
right here. He'd
Yeah,
be like on
yeah,
the show, and he'd be like, "Hey, Jamie, look this up right quick," and Jamie goes and
yeah,
looks it up.
yeah.
Yeah, you right. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I ain't saying you were wrong, but like, yeah, I said it. Fool, it's true. But yeah,
Yeah,
Holistic Family Solutions, and that's really, and
yeah.
I know I have a lot of people down in Tidewater in the 757
Hmm.
Hampton Roads, whatever we're calling it nowadays. I keep getting a pop up on this, but yeah, 757-4371 right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's ran by Ali and
And
Stephanie
Stephanie, there
Afonja.
it is, Ali and Stephanie Afonja. So thank you to those
Yeah,
humans for providing that, because man, I didn't even know that was the word, sublimate. Because
yeah.
I'm always over here talking about healthy outlets, but put that shit somewhere. It's going to go somewhere. And like, I have a friend of mine, he was doing comedy last night, and he said he's got really high anxiety, so he works out a lot, which is cool for how he looks on the beach. And then he had a whole nother bit. I ain't gonna steal his material. I love you, John. But he does something with all of that energy that could be used for negative. And it's not just working out. He obviously was out there doing stand-up comedy too. But if you can sublimate that shit
Hmm.
into something good,
I got to drop in the big grad school words because
yes.
I paid all that money for that education. So I
Nah,
got to
I'm
use
learning.
the
Why
word.
not? Why not? Because I'm always
Yeah,
just like healthy outlets, but
yeah,
community-based
that
service,
too.
that's
Yeah, and
beautiful. And they
they
got
had
outpatient services.
yeah,
Yeah,
they definitely focused on. They had four holistic areas: nutrition, physical fitness, spiritual, and
wow.
and cognition. And so they also and it's also about the food you're
The
eating.
community learning garden.
Yeah, that's what it
Yeah,
is. Yeah,
yeah, that's so
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so they will look at, what are you eating? What are you eating that's contributing to some of your the symptoms of your mental health symptoms? What
Yeah.
should you eat more of and what you should eat, what you can eat less of,
Damn.
then like physical fitness, like what kinds of exercises work on, different parts of the brain that help reduce stress and promote, calm or improve mood. So their holistic approach
That's so
And I
cool.
had to, I worked with them to help, figure out, do some research on
Yeah.
why does eating certain foods work to reduce depression and like, whatever. And so they have an awesome program down there. I haven't talked to Ali in a minute, but
Shout out Ali
yeah,
and
yeah.
what's his bride's name?
Stephanie.
Stephanie. That's beautiful. They got one called Foot. Families
Mm-hmm.
overcoming obstacles together, right?
Mm-hmm. They
And
got a
then
bunch of other outreach
that's so
programs that stem
cool.
from that main
Foot.
business.
I like that. Families overcoming obstacles together. It's like
Yeah.
remind me of Ninja Turtles with the Foot Clan, but
Yeah.
a good foot. But it
Get
said
on a
members
good foot.
receive access to live weekly wellness classes as well as a
Mm-hmm.
robust library of articles and videos for a minimum contribution of $5 a month. Learn more and join today. Look, I ain't making no money off of this, but the community learning garden is up in Hampton, right there,
Mm-hmm.
23669. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's 236. That's Hampton. That's the other side of the water. I know
Yeah,
those
yeah.
235s and 234s real good.
Yeah. So then there's always like this, what is it, the peninsula versus the south side?
Always like there's
I
just
don't know.
and like either if you ain't going Busch Gardens or the Coliseum, you don't really go over that part. And if y'all ain't coming to the Scope, y'all don't come on our part.
Yeah.
And it's not intentional. It's just the way it is. And if you're from Hampton Roads or Tidewater 757, be like, oh, where you from? Oh, that's the other side of the water. You know what I mean? Hampton, Newport News, and then we got our other. That's 2. Then we got 5 cities on the other side.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild because I grew up on the peninsula side only because this is where my mom was from. So
yeah. But you don't know what you don't know, and you grow where you grow.
Exactly.
And most of us didn't have no choice over where we came from.
Nope.
But in saying that, and I know we spoke, man, I love what you've shared in tangible tools that people can use. Outside of art, I mean, obviously, to me, everyone's fighting a battle you know nothing about, so I'm not going to make assumptions. But to me, you are a thriving, healthy, kind human who is a light in this world. But I also understand, as Viktor Frankl said, what is to give light must endure burning. And I'm sure there's been some burning, and we've shared things, and you've shared things with me throughout your life and your journey. But what are some other things or ways that you've remained resilient in your journey?
That's a good point. And so it's funny because when you sent me that quote by Viktor Frankl, and I'm like, some days like I'm tired of burning. Why gotta be a light?
I'm hot right now. Yeah. It's true.
Just but yeah. So there's a lot of different things. So I know that I'm more spiritual than religious. So I know that for me, faith is important. Prayer definitely helps because it's just just from prayer changes things, and so even if you're if you have, let's say you have a different life philosophy, right? And so there's times in my life where I had friends who were atheists, and I learned a lot from atheism. And I think atheists get a bad rap because I know some of the most moral people that I've met are atheists.
Yeah.
And just because you don't believe in God doesn't mean that you're not moral.
Mm-hmm.
And these atheists that I knew were able to minister to me.
Wow.
Through just either lighting a candle or like I'll send positive thoughts your way, and they didn't have to do that. So for me, for myself, having a spiritual connection with the Lord is key. I'm not perfect. The Lord knows that I'm hard headed, stubborn. It takes me a few times to learn some things, but we're all works in progress. Outside of that, I love sports. I played basketball in middle school and high school. Obviously, you be this tall, you're going to play basketball. I played center. I was really back there reading the paper until the action got hot and I need to get a layup or get a rebound or something. But yeah, I love sports. I'm a big fan of the NFL. I have no clue how football is played, but I love watching.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Steelers fan. And we definitely kick butt this week. Let's continue that and get to the playoffs and the Super Bowl this year.
Y'all looking good. Y'all look. I mean, you got Mike Tomlin, man. That's a VA native right there.
757.
Yes.
And so what I like about football is that I don't know all the rules, but it's about I understand strategy because I used to one of my oldest brothers taught me how to play chess.
Yeah.
And so I look at things that I don't understand as strategy. So I love football. I love women's basketball. I primarily watch college hoops, but like professional football. But so I'm a big fan of sports, whether it's a hockey, love to go to hockey games or baseball games. Just I love sports.
Which is art itself too.
Yeah, definitely. And so other than that, like right now, because I'm getting older, my body is doing weird things. I love water aerobics. So fitness is interested me too. So I love water aerobics. I love dance classes. I've done jazz tap. I've done, Afrocentric movement, belly dancing, hip hop fitness, Zumba. So I love to dance, love fitness. I was bitten by, I had 5K fever a couple of years ago, but then last year I did something to my knee, and so I can't run at the moment. But as soon as we rehab it, we're out there getting our
Yeah.
5K on. So there's tons of things. Like I just picked up golf, and that was wild.
I
I've
think
never.
Billy Ocean that we know, he
Yep. Yeah, Billy Ocean, love him, love him. Our guy we work
Millie
with,
Mill.
Millie Mill.
Yeah.
He's in the
He be
golf,
liking some golf.
and I now keep was it golf balls and tees in my car just in case if I need to break out somewhere and get my golf on.
But you can do
Never
like deep
imagined.
conversations, like one of those mob bosses, like you working on here.
Exactly, like all kind of business deals, are out on the back nine. Again, I never saw myself doing that, but like I always try different things, all kind of things. So for me, it's like just whatever I'm into that stimulates my mind and
Yeah.
coats my interest. I'm gonna try it at least once. Like since I have a fear of heights, I probably won't be doing any bungee jumping or skydiving, but I really like things that just again challenge me in some way, that just get me thinking in different ways
Yeah,
and
yeah,
just
yeah.
get me out meeting different people. And I will say,
Mm.
growing up military has been one of the best things that happened to me in life because I have this, I look for difference. I learn from difference. And so, which I think also, which I know has fed into me wanting to do different things, go different places, see and be around different people.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, yeah.
That's beautiful though. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that was like a wellness omelet she just shared with
I like
everybody.
that.
No,
Wellness omelet.
because it's not just one thing, right? And
Mhm.
then I'm with you on this. I can't run as much as I used to. I can't do some of like I can't. I love boxing. I love just
Mhm.
training for boxing, but with my hips I can't. So what can I do instead? And you're like water aerobics. Well, I can't dance to Zumba, but could I do some other form of dance that's less intensive?
Mhm.
You gotta, it's Bruce Lee 101. I got to tat it right here. Be water, my friend.
Yeah.
Definitely drink water. Sometimes
Mhm.
you can't run, so go be in the water, but you got to keep flowing, right? And running water never grows stale. And that's just
Mhm.
everything I described. But I love what you said about the meeting different people and that you look for it because like there's a strength in learning from different people that are not just exactly cookie cutter, just like you. And I think having that mindset, and we're America, like diversity, it helps us be better and it gives you all these different vantage points and perspectives and to not shoo anybody and where they're coming from. And honestly, some people you see aren't what you think you see.
Mhm.
And, all the things that go along with that. So to seek out those different things, but that is rooted in a little bit of discomfort because it's different. And, but you also said, and I took a note over here from it, because I'm gonna eventually quote you in a future book, but that you said that there can be no growth in comfortable places, I think is what you exactly said.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
all of those things you just described, I'm thinking about belly dancing now. That's what I'm saying.
I'm
Like,
telling you, man, it's dope. I mean, it's just like it's all connected. I do yoga too now. I
there you go,
never,
yoga. Yeah.
yeah, with one of our coworkers, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, Cam.
No, you good. It's beautiful.
But yeah, but Yin
They
Yoga.
don't heard my shit before. So, all of them, they got about 70 something like
Yeah.
this
I
dude
mean,
again.
I'm a plug Dragonfly Yoga down in downtown
Yeah,
Fredericksburg
Dragonfly
because
yoga down at, yep.
yeah,
Yep.
and again I started going because our coworker Becca Childress, who I believe has
Great human. Yes,
been
yes.
on
She's
the
been on here. Yep.
podcast.
Yep.
And it's Yin Yoga. It's restorative. It helps with some of my joint issues that I'm having, and I don't always feel comfortable in all spaces. Because I know I don't always see myself reflected in different spaces, but that doesn't stop me from going in them.
That's right.
And so I know I enjoy her class. She's an amazing yoga instructor. I know that usually when I go in there on Sunday night at 5, it gives me a chance to shut my mind off because
Yeah.
as someone whose mind is everywhere all the time, I need something I need it to quiet.
Yeah.
And so going in with Yin Yoga, with Becca and other ladies in the room, it's just a time for you to just, really kind of be one with yourself and focus on your breathing and really just to get rid of the
And
noise.
doing it on a Sabbath too. You doing it on a Sabbath, a day of
Yeah,
rest and
yeah, I didn't even
recovery to
think of that.
prepare you for
Yeah,
that's
for the
beautiful.
week. So
That's
I will
smart.
tell. I don't know if I've told her this, but my Becca going to your class has saved many a people.
Oh no, I love her. And what I really love is the birthday man, not Nelly, but the other one that shares a birthday, Lizzie Thicket. Yeah, she's married to a beautiful man, and
Oh
and
wow.
he's no, he is the man. We just call him Chili because he's so hot. That's what it is. But yeah,
I like that.
Chili is the man, and I just call him Mr. C. And sometimes he talk about when he go to oh my God, what the hell is the place called around here? Oh no, it's not Warrington. What's one of the other towns you can go to around here? Oh man, he says it's so damn funny. He says like a Southern
Bowling
gentleman.
Green, is
Nah,
it
not Bowling Green.
Culpeper?
Oh yeah, that's what he said. Sometimes I go down to Culpeper. Culpeper, Virginia, baby. That's what he said.
No way.
Yeah, but hilarious, man. But yeah, that a beautiful human she is, and she's helped me save my life many a times because of the light that she brings. And then she also does it in a formal sense on her time on the weekends. Dragonfly yoga, man. If y'all around the Frederick, what we call Xberg, what I've seen this.
It's FXBRG.
There you go. All right. They ain't as cool as getting all up in your front of Virginia 757. What's up? But it'll work. But Fredericksburg is pretty. It's a pretty town.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm still learning to adjust to it. I only plan on being here for 3 years, but 7 years later, like I've been here for 10 years now.
Life be lifing.
But definitely that, again, those different interests that I've cultivated just by, this looks interesting. Let me see what it is about. Let me just invest a few minutes in it. And it's like, oh, wow. And she also does on Wednesdays at Dragonfly Warrior Yoga through Team Red, White, and Blue. So
that's another great organization. Team RWB.
Awesome.
Yes. I'm gonna put that link in here too. I gotta write this down on this card because I'm gonna share these as resources. But yeah, Team RWB. Sorry I cut you off.
No, it's interesting you bring that up because today I just saw Team RWB was hosted, or not hosted really, but they put a link. They sent a word out about a webinar that I looked at today that was put on by TAPS, and it was talking about how do you help children and youth cope with suicide, a family member who suicided.
That's RWB putting on the website?
Yeah. Team RWB had said, hey, there's this thing going on produced through TAPS. And so I'm like, let me check this out. So,
wow.
Yeah. So all these
I'm going to put that in the link. I'm going to look that up and put that in here because people, oh man, if anybody's out there thinking about it, I don't want to shame you. I don't want to blame you. I don't want to do that because some people have hit me on that and saying I speak in it in such a way. But what I really want you to consider, and even in your moment of time and pain, and I'm totally making this dark right now, is listen, I've been there and so many other people have to give tomorrow a chance, but also your pain ends, but everyone else's pain begins. And that shit has a generational effect. And I know you may think, and I don't want to be a burden to anybody anymore. I'm going to do them all a favor and just exit stage left. Oh my God, you couldn't be more wrong. You couldn't be more wrong. And I don't say that to shame you. We said a lot of this can be external motivation for others. Yes, we want to make ourselves better. I hope you want to live your life so you can take it and thrive for somebody else. But you departing in such a way of death by suicide, obviously we'll never be perfect on it, but you have no idea the generational trauma that is going to cause down the line. I mean, it's rampant through my family and so many others. Please, all I'm saying is stop, take a moment, seek help, call 988, call 911. Don't care, call someone, and please don't be near a gun. That's just a little intro right there because we're talking about, in this case, you said military families that are survivors of death by suicide and kids.
And it was really it was about how do we help children, like basically it was a suicide post-vention webinar on how do we help children and youth cope with a parent who has died by suicide. And so TAPS, and I know what it is, but I don't know what the acronym stands for, but it was an amazing 1-hour training.
Tragedy Assistance Program.
There we go. And so it was put on by the folks that work with this program on really about how do we talk to kids and youth to help them understand why their parents or loved one died by suicide in a way that is building their resilience, helping them understand in a way that is going to help them move through the grief in different ways that, kind of programs and activities that TAPS does to work with kids. And they also mention how they teach them art, how they allow the kids to use art to talk about how they're feeling. And then even in the slide deck, and I'll send that to you, Cam, when they send it to us.
Yeah, and I'll post a link in the show notes, y'all.
And they recorded the webinar today because it's really important to, how do we talk to children and teens and how do we respect their way of processing their grief.
Yes.
So it was another, therapeutically dope opportunity to really hear about You know, how do we support families who've gone through this? Because
Yeah.
we know that families have. And then the folks who run the program and who were, they also are, I think one of the presenters is someone who lost their spouse, died by suicide 31 years ago, I believe she had said. So,
Wow.
amazing resources out there to help folks who are, you know, going through tough times. And again, building that community, building that resilience. I think
Yes.
building community is building resilience.
Oh, for sure.
So you're
And
not
and it's such
alone.
a, like, again, protective factor. And I didn't understand what protective factor was before. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but it's basically like a shield against bad. It's the
Mhm.
no, it's the number one protective factor against harmful behaviors. Death by suicide in this case is connection, community. And what is that we're lacking in our, we're talking about these times we're living in are filled with division and a lack of community and a lack of sense of belonging. So, but the TAPS is the postvention model, as Miss Yan just said, but it has three phases to it. So this is one, stabilization, and that's talking about the grieving and the postvention factors, right? But then there's the grief work in phase two where they focus on the grief work. But this is something that's beautiful right here. And
Mhm.
I didn't even know, I knew of TAPS, I knew about it, but I didn't ever pull this up because I'm trying to share it with everybody. It's taps.org, TAPS.org, post-traumatic growth. Oh
Yes.
my God.
I
Like,
can't believe that I forgot to mention
no,
that
but
too.
it's just, I want to say it more so people know it more, because I'll speak to a room full of people whenever I
Mhm.
speak on any platform, and you say PTSD, and the entire like society of America and probably the world at this point and go post traumatic stress disorder. It's great that we're so aware, but I
Mhm.
think the D gets just too much. We allow it to define us too much. And I have
Mhm.
PTSD as well. But you know what else I got? And I asked the crowd, PTG, PTSG, and it gets crickets. And maybe one provider or
Mhm.
one person that's an expert in this field may say it, but even then, sometimes it's all crickets. And that's post traumatic growth, is the final phase of what this TAPS program goes over, because there is, as J. Cole has said in Love Yours, beautiful song on just gratitude and mindfulness and counting your blessings. But in Love Yours, he says that there's beauty in the struggle.
Mhm.
There's beauty in the struggle. And as we've defined or described about talking about resilience on this entire episode, there's growth in there, and there can't be growth in comfortable space. And we don't want anything to be as uncomfortable as tragedy and the loss of someone by such a tragic means of death by suicide. But in that still, there can be post-traumatic growth. And
Mhm.
it's not just the disorder, and it's not just the definition now placed on you as a label. There's post-traumatic growth. Some of the strongest people you've ever met have been through some shit,
Yeah.
and they've come out on the other side of it. So I think it's so beautiful. So again, TAPS, phase one, stabilization, then the grief work, and then the post-traumatic growth. And that's the TAPS suicide post-vention model, which post-vention is after a death by suicide.
Or an
So,
attempt
or
or
yeah, all of
yeah.
that, everything
Mhm.
after the badness has happened. What do we do? And post-vention is prevention,
Mhm.
because how we respond to things, other people are watching too. And give or take, in any room, someone's thinking of these things. I mean, there's even me on medication, I still have the thought sometimes, I hope I don't wake up, I don't, like you learn how to check and regulate these things and learn skills and emotional regulation. But I mean, it's almost like being a heat case. Once it's there, it's kind of always there, maybe, but
Mhm.
you learn skills and ways to stay ahead of it, and how to grow is what I'm really getting at, is
Yeah.
grow and not be a victim, but be a victor. So that RWB is offering that is just so cool. And that just big shout out. I got them right here, actually. Right here, I got that little handband right here. I rotate my little bands, because right here I got the Overwatch Project. Overwatch Project is amazing, and their whole slogan is just fucking ask, whether it's for help or if someone's hurting and you know they shouldn't be near a weapon, you just fucking ask them if you can take the weapon. But Team RWB, that's Team Romeo Whiskey Bravo.org. That's Oscar Romeo Golf, for anybody that's motivated enough to know what that means. And it's enriching veterans' lives, also
Mhm.
families and community as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, I just went on a
No,
fucking big
no,
spiel there.
no, no. We're all about giving people resources and action
Resources,
items because
yes.
all the stuff that we're sharing and like if somebody has, well, I need a resource where I could go do and look up is great. And I'm so glad you brought up, you know, post traumatic growth because sometimes our mind just always goes to one thing, and it's like, all right, post traumatic growth is the growth that happens from traumatic
Yeah.
experiences. And I think if I remember correctly, so there's these two gentlemen who I think were the authors of this term. Tedeschi and Calhoun. So
Okay.
those are for you guys that are out there who like, research nerds and like to,
Want to get more therapeutically dope?
yeah, exactly, right. Because I looked this up when I was working on my thesis in grad school about, because I always heard about, PTSD or depression and anxiety. I'm like, post traumatic growth, what is that? And so it talks about, different stages or different types of post traumatic growth. And, usually this happens once you've had some distance on the traumatic
Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
So it generally may not happen in that moment, but it's
Mhm.
and I didn't do some of my homework to come here today, but I think, when I think about when you look up post traumatic growth and like the different phases and stages and types, it really talks about, to me, there's a little bit of Viktor Frankl in there. Like,
Yeah,
how do I
most
make
definitely.
sense of the struggles I've been through?
Yes.
Like, sometimes for some people it's increased awareness. It's like a deepened sense of spiritual self. And again, spiritual doesn't always mean religion. It's more
No,
about
it doesn't.
who you or what you might connect to as a higher power or a higher being, a higher purpose.
Yes.
So definitely post traumatic growth is amazing. And like once you realize, how do I, develop wholeness, maintain wholeness, develop resilience, but really more so, how have I grown from these traumatic moments? I mean, it's again, it's just a powerful way of understanding. So it's
Yeah.
not like trauma happens and that's it.
Yeah.
It's more about, what did I learn from this? What did it teach me? How have I grown? How does it, maybe deepen your understanding of life, deepen your understanding of struggle, and again, how does it help me to be in service to others?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I mean, I'm glad you brought it up because it's so important to not just focus on the disorder but also about the growth.
Yes.
um yeah.
It just is because I think we're so bogged down with negativity sells, y'all. And,
Hmm.
and and we already know as humans we have a negative bias to things. So I don't think people are doing these things with bad intentions, but we're so quick to just talk about the disorder and the way that it holds us back. And trust me, that's why there's that phases of what even Taps is doing right there. There's that phases of grief. There's that
Hmm.
phases of healing. And nobody's saying to share a wound when it's freshly cut. But once it's been bandaged and once it's been healed or sewn together, don't be afraid to show your scar a little bit because you never know how it can help somebody where they are right now. Don't be afraid to share your scar because it can help where somebody. Nah, I messed it up. That's not English. I could have said it is. All right,
Thought
anyway,
you
I
were
was
gonna, I
trying to
thought you
make a
were gonna
rhyme.
rhyme with that.
Yeah, I was trying. But in all sincerity, though, like Bobby Oliver is a comedian out in LA, and I love her so much. And she's taught me a lot. And she has a book called The Tao of Comedy. The Tao of Comedy, but I'm cultured, so I say the Tao of Comedy. But she talks about tell it over and over again until it no longer owns you.
Yeah.
There's a time level there, right?
Yeah.
There's a too soon on that too. But it's whether it's been in comedy or in writing or even doing this podcast, like there's so many things that once you tell it, you share that scar, it doesn't own you. And a great friend of mine, Kristen, a comedian mentor, she's an instructor in ASAP too. She talks about like once you either put it on paper or you say it, like you own it.
Hmm.
It does. There's something physical about that transfer of energy. Again, I'm not saying never to do it, but if there is a too soon on some things, and we talked about that at length on our episodes together, it's a previous episode, but there's power in expression. And
Hmm.
it's like almost full circle back to what we initially talked about and how you even said, growth can't happen in comfortable places. It just, so, and not, we don't want it to be trauma. We don't want it to be tragedy, but I want to read the definition of trauma real fast. And
Hmm.
please chime in on anything that may have come up in mind to what I was just saying.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about how, I don't know, it's funny how like I have thoughts and then they drop out of space.
Yeah, me too.
Yay, I'm like, yay, menopause. This is a wonderful time in life.
Well, I'm just
talk
dumb. At
about
least you
some
got a medical
talk
thing,
about some post traumatic growth from that. How do I build menopausal resilience? For real,
This
because
is an
I'm just
opportunity for
like,
growth,
for real, because this stuff is real. You said so many dope things. About just it'll come back to me at some point. That while you're looking up the definition,
Yeah,
I'll
I
think
just wanted
about
to.
it.
I wanted to. I don't know what source this is from, Oxford or whatever, but I'm sure somebody will be like, well, that's whatever. So here it is. Like, a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. emotional shock following a stressful event or physical injury, which may be associated. But I've also heard, and you all can look him up. I put his TEDx talk in here because he's amazing. I love you, brother. You're a great human. But Garrett Biss, Mr. Garrett Biss, he's a Marine veteran. He runs an amazing organization down in North Carolina, and he works with those in substance misuse, abuse, recovery, and also a lot of PTSD things. What he talks about is that there's a trauma that all veterans face when we get out, right? Because we lose our tribe, we lose our ability to be what we thought is authentic in a lot of cases. But he has such a beautiful definition of trauma in that the event affects it affects like your beliefs and perceptions of a situation. I don't want to misquote it, but that was some of the definitions. But it's that spiritual, that mental, that emotional, physical harm, and it comes in all forms. And what may be trauma to you, right? We can have the same exact event happen right now to both of us, and you could walk away traumatized. I could walk away not. But 5 years from now, we could go through the same thing. I walk away traumatized, and you walk away not. So you just never know the reactions. Something is as extreme as the Joker, the movie with Joaquin Phoenix, which I thought was the first one was amazing. The second one sucked, but the first one where he laughed when there was trauma. He laughed in his response. That was his trauma response. So how many times do we judge how somebody reacts to something going on, whether it's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn? But the trauma has an impact on like your belief, your perspective, your experience with life. And it comes in so many different forms. And I don't want anybody to like, claim just I was walking on the street and I had trauma from walking down the street. I'm not saying something as extreme as that, but it comes in many forms. So who are we to judge what everybody else has maybe gone through? I don't know if that makes sense. That word vomit I just
No,
did.
no, it definitely does because again, it's about perception of the threat of the whatever that traumatic event is, and the reason why I focus on that is,
And I actually did find out, Garrett. Thank you, AI. It found out what Garrett how he speaks on this often, but he says it's an experience is traumatic when it causes a fundamental shift in one's values, beliefs, or personal understanding of who they are and the world they live in. And why, to the point of the unspoken trauma that all veterans face, is because when you leave this cloth, when you leave the Corps or the Army or whatever the thing is, there's a shift in your values, your beliefs, and your personal understanding of who you are and the world they now live in, right? And it's something, no matter if you did 4 years or 40 years, or you went to every campaign or every war or conflict in the world, you're still departing from a tribe. And that is traumatic and for many, if not all of us. So that was where I was getting at with the definition, because I'm like, he says it in such a good way, but it is, it's an action, it's an experience that occurs that shifts one's values, beliefs, or personal understanding. But that might always not be like bad, right? Because there could be a good nuance to that and how you now see things. You may see things from a bigger picture. I know, serving in the Marines or being a Marine, you serve in the Marine Corps, but you were a Marine. And for many others, you get this education of other people's experiences, and you learn to appreciate what we have and what we got ain't perfect, but defending it is surely is worth it, and we'll get there. And we're always a work in progress, as we said about us as individuals, our nation, that is. But when you go other places, you get to understand maybe where others are coming from. You become a little bit more tolerant, not accepting or condoning of bad or unethical behavior, but you understand that maybe somebody's not just bad just because they're bad, and that not all people are all bad and not all people are all good. We're just this myriad of things. But that can come through a traumatic experience, that eureka moment, or that revelation to you, that moment of clarity. But it may have came through some form of trauma. Now, that's not always the case. I'm just saying that I think we automatically say the word discipline is bad. We say that because it means you're disciplining someone. No, it's actually discipline because you need some grit, you need some wherewithal to be able to keep pushing forward. Or confrontation, we automatically, that's negative because that means you get into a fight. No, it doesn't. When I stop someone, if I'm out there dating and I ask for their phone number or how to connect with them, and I'm confronting them, most of y'all doing it in virtual spaces, and you wonder why you're single. But if you have the wherewithal to talk to somebody face to face, or to say I love you, or to say thank you, that is a healthy confrontation, right? Or to say I have a problem with you and this is why, and you go, oh shit, for real, I didn't even know it's coming off like that. Whatever it is, we have these words that automatically get thrown out there as just bad altogether, and nothing is all bad or nothing is all good. So I love this definition because it can actually have it could have a positive fundamental shift in your beliefs or your understanding or your values, which may be post-traumatic growth.
A lot of things, like you talked about again, how when I mentioned something earlier in our podcast about becoming a therapist for me helped me understand a lot of things differently. Like it
Yeah.
helped me to be way less assumptive.
Mm.
Because when you're a counselor, if you are guided by assumptions, you actually are more of a danger to a client than a help. Because I've seen people, I've
By
worked with
making
people,
assumptions.
yeah, like making like, oh, this person, let's say you're working with a client who appears to be depressed, and like, oh, this is just whatever, and depression looks like this, and
Yeah,
blah blah
yeah.
blah blah, but it could be masking something else.
Yes.
They could be on some form of medication, or it could be like a medical induced another issue. And so if you just label clients as you're going to miss an opportunity to see them for who they are and what they actually need.
Yes.
I've learned that you have to learn how to be way less assumptive to be a therapist. And I've even had an experience where I was working at a psych hospital, and one of the case managers referred to her Black female client as an angry Black woman.
That was what the therapist was saying about the client.
Yeah. Oh. In our treatment team meeting, we're trying to hear who's on the unit and who came in and just providing updates on your clients.
So yeah, patient angry Black woman that's jacked up.
And so I'm sitting there in the room. I'm the only Black woman in the room. Okay. And so nobody flinched or said anything when this white social case manager said that. And like, I was infuriated. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe. And she just said it like she was reading, just the stats on who this client was.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, no, she didn't. And so I'm looking around, like nobody looked up. Nobody was like, oh my God, how did you say that? And so I didn't say anything in a moment, but I was obviously pissed. And so I'm like, okay, I need to bring this up with my supervisor later on.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how that was the day I was going to be on that unit with the client. And so I taught, this woman was in my group. And so
this was an angry Black woman?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so anyway, so I'm just like, okay, because being a Black and woman, and there's so many just socially inappropriate things that went on with what this woman had said, and didn't think that she was wrong because she just said it like she's said it forever. So I went on the unit, and so I'm doing my group, and this African American lady was in my group, and so I just started talking to her after when I was gathering up my art materials. And I learned why this woman was angry. She had a lot of crap going on in her universe and some stuff that was popping off that brought her to the inpatient unit. Yeah. And so I just listened to her talk while
she wasn't just mad to be mad. She had some justification.
Human beings are mad for a reason. And Black women, we don't just walk around being edgy. Instead of assuming that a Black woman is angry, ask her why she's angry.
Yeah.
So I learned why the woman was angry. And so I found my supervisor, and I pulled her aside and said, look, I'm going to colorize what I said, because this isn't how I said it. But basically it was like, you got homegirl as a case manager referring to her clients as angry Black women. When you put that label on someone, or if you put any label on a human being, and definitely in the case as a client, you are not seeing them. You are not seeing what's bothering them. And so you put a label on them, which means that you are not going to effectively provide the treatment or the interaction or the resources this person needs. And so I basically told my supervisor, that's offensive, and you need to bring that to her attention.
Well, it also puts on blind spots, right?
Exactly.
Because you're not really seeking to understand the full human,
because you're
just seeing that. And then whatever we all have biases. It doesn't matter. So whatever angry Black woman could just be a stupid prejudice, because there's a lot of angry humans that walk around. And if they have a reason to be, well, then there'll be an angry white man or an angry Black man or an angry Asian man, whatever the case may be. Now you're just seeing them with that, and depending on your biases, that could hold a lot of weight in how you, evaluate or provide provide care to them. Yeah.
And so because you've just written them off as that, you're not going to take what brought them into the facility seriously.
Yeah.
And to me, like I was saying before, that's dangerous. Wow. And so when I shared
I've been
this
there
with my supervisor,
not as an angry Black woman, but I've been there.
You're insane.
But I've been there.
But yeah, and so when I had to say something, and again, I know as long as I worked there and worked with this caseworker, she never said it around me. Now she could have probably went on to say it around other people.
Yeah.
But my thing is, and again, I'm not perfect. I'm not holier than thou. It's just like there are just some things that are just wrong.
Yeah, that's just not it.
And again, it's like, okay, you're a case worker, a case manager. You probably have 900 people to see in a day. I get it. You have a ton of people on your caseload, but that is dangerous. This
Yeah.
woman is not going to be seen for what the help that she needs. And so
Yeah.
I just thought, and I'm assuming that my supervisor let her know that this is inappropriate. It's unethical.
Yeah, that's not it.
Because we all have clients who are challenging, who could be cantankerous, whatever. But again, as a therapist and even as caseworkers, whatever mental health or medical provider, at least I know from my experience, you have to see beyond the behavior. Because if I
Mm.
walked around putting a label on all my clients, they're not going to get what they need to get better. They're going to get more of the same, which is probably why they are there.
See
Because
beyond the behavior.
you see behind because again, behaviors, people don't act a certain way for no reason.
That's it.
There's something causing something. There's a causal relationship there, and it's hard to look beyond it because again, if you're stressed, you got a large caseload, whatever, you just want people to come in, draw the picture, talk about it, and just behave so I can go on and do the other 45 groups. But then it's not about me, right?
Yeah, but you can't use that as a
Exactly.
reason to
Mhm.
totally stigmatize someone or
Exactly.
label. Isn't that a cognitive distortion? Labeling, isn't it one of
Yeah,
those?
yeah,
Yes.
definitely on your little list of
I had to
cognitive
get aware of them.
distortions.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I tell you, man, it's just that hurt my heart, and I'm like, even if it was anybody, if I'm like, but you cannot, and not just, and again, because I am a black woman, because I am 6 feet tall, because I'm very aware of my physicality and what I can and can't do, and what comes off as being aggressive, even when I'm
Why
not
are
even
you
being
so aggressive?
aggressive.
But if someone else does it, it's assertive.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah, yeah.
so all of that in there, but I'm like, so long story short, we have to, even as human beings who aren't providers, but as a provider, one of the main things that has helped me be a better human is learning how to be less assumptive.
Yeah.
And so,
Man, this
and
is
giving you an
gold.
example of how when assumptions cause harm. The other thing I was going to say too is about uh, labeling emotions.
Mm.
So what I've learned in my 14 years of being a therapist is I'm very careful, and I share this feelings with clients too. And I'm like, people can do like, oh, that's a bad emotion or that's a good emotion. I don't put this descriptions on emotions because anger, envy, jealousy, frustration, hate are helpful emotions.
Hmm.
My thing is that because a lot of times when we get angry or upset, we're frustrating or envious about something, it's alerting you to something else. Why am I feeling this way? What do I need to be aware of? And so if you label those emotions as bad or negative, then now this
Ah.
human being who's struggling with whatever they're struggling with is like, oh, I had a bad emotion, I'm a bad person.
Yeah.
Because some people who have shame-based natures
Yeah.
will go there with that. And I'm
Yes.
like, anger, frustration, jealousy, envy, whatever, they are honest emotions. Even hatred is an honest emotion. It's about what you do with that hatred, which can cause problems like
Lead like
that.
you want to be
Hmm.
led. And again, it's rooted in the golden rule. But when you have these precious privileges of influence over people or situations, take heed, my friends, to what Miss Sean's talking about, and think about what is the effect that you really are having on those others, right? Um, are you leading them or making them better? Or are you making them revisit trauma of their past? Or are you triggering them in negative ways? Obviously, everybody else's triggers are their responsibilities, but we know that we can press and we can poke and we can do things that can make them a lesser version of themselves. Are we helping them reach their best potential, which is hopefully what a good leader is doing? And if you can do that, well, you'll definitely accomplish the mission because you're helping them thrive and you're helping them do that on their own and you're leading them hopefully like you want to be led. So see beyond the behavior, be less
Hmm.
assumptive, Be careful with labeling. That's a cognitive distortion. If you look it up,
Mhm.
I want to go ahead and read it to you. And this is from my little chart right here. To place a label on yourself or others by generalizing based on a single event or a single characteristic, like behaviors. So, and there's so many other ones: polarized thinking, catastrophizing, mind reading, mental filler.
Personalization, all or
Oh,
nothing.
oh my God! Should statements, disqualifying the positive, labeling again, personalization, blaming, and unfair comparisons. Most of us, if not all of us, are guilty of those on a regular basis. But I will say, yes, you're human. You've said it many times. None of us are perfect. We all fall short. But if you're in a position of influence, if you're a leader, really be cautious and be aware of how you could maybe F this up, which will F up the person or the people's and the situation. And that's not a good leader. And that's not leading like I hope you want to be led. So there's so much in there about caring, and it's rooted to me in leadership, and it's respecting the role that you have, like you said.
Yeah, because you have a lot of influence over someone,
Yeah.
even if it's for that 1 hour on that inpatient unit, you may not know if you see that person again or however long you're working with someone. And so I just think about that a lot because, I think about bad therapists I've had or, unfortunate encounters with medical professionals. And it's just like, and so I may try to think about, well, maybe they were having a rough day or blah 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 blah, but then I try to.
But you're a reasonable human.
Yeah,
Somebody else
yeah,
might be pushed over the edge now. And then
yeah,
we sit
yeah,
back and wonder why.
yeah, and I think your spidey senses, the Rice Krispie treat, something will speak to you in your spirit that says something about that not right.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, there's times where I've had interactions with medical professionals, and I'm like, that wasn't right. And at the moment, I'm still learning how to address things in the moment because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it like stuff that kind of just comes at you
Oh, it just
sideways,
catches you. Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're like, did I just hear
So
that? Or like,
flat
what's going
footed.
on? And so I
Yeah.
like to be able to articulate, or respond in a way that doesn't pull me out of myself because I can't just be fighting everybody
Yeah,
every
can't do
day.
it. Keeping it real does go wrong.
Yeah. But definitely, if more people can be aware of, just the beauty of that therapeutic relationship and
Yeah.
what people are, what we're asking them to do in whatever amount of time we're
Yeah.
interacting with them.
And the trust,
Yeah,
do no
yeah,
harm. Something about that I've heard about in
hmm
medical or something. They say
yeah.
do
The
no harm.
Hippocratic oath.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I think that's a leadership oath as well. I think
yes,
that's a parenting
it's a
oath.
humanity oath.
Yes, do no harm.
Hmm
And again, you know, sometimes we do it out of ignorance. Sometimes we do it because of the
hmm
circumstance. We're burnt out. We're pouring from an empty cup. But in that case, you need to have the self-awareness if you are such a leader or such a professional or such a clinician to check yourself before you wreck someone else or wreck yourself, right?
hmm
And
hmm
that's a precious privilege. And as you said, respect the role you have. We just said role. You meant it in the context of what you professionally are doing
hmm
and personally doing, but man, we all got a role, like the Rock
Yeah.
said, know your role, right? Like, oh, like Bill
hmm
Belichick said, Coach Belichick, do your job, right? um
hmm
and tread lightly, my friends, and because the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is, as Jim
Yeah.
Carrey said. But it can also be very, very bad and detrimental to the person that you are privileged to be able to be in a position of influence over, whether you're in a white jacket or a white collar, or maybe you're just the line chief at, I don't know, Taco Bell. I was the shit when I worked at Taco Bell. And you
Nice.
know what? Shout out Adam, I love you, man. When we worked at Old
Mhm.
Country Buffet, okay,
Oh, I was
okay,
on Mercury
OCB. We
Boulevard.
was no, we were in Mercury.
Okay, you're over on
We
the
was
other
at
side.
Laskin. We was on
Laskin.
Laskin. I was staying with my
Okay,
brother over in Regency.
nice.
And I worked over there. I was the HDMO, Okay, I used to be somebody. HDMO. Do you know what that is? Okay.
Head.
Dish machine operator. Yes, I was.
Oh,
Yes,
so I'm thinking
yes. Yeah.
HDMI. See
I
where
mean,
my mind goes. Oh my
ah!
god,
I'm just
that's
saying. I'm just
awesome.
saying. And shout out to
Yeah.
one resource. I don't know if I said it, but it's the unspoken trauma.vet, as in veteran, as in Victor Echo Tango. I might have misspoken, said net, because him not that smart, but him be trying good. But that's the site where you can follow what Garrett is doing and about his TEDx talk and some of the organizations he does. And he's on LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff. Garrett, 2 R's, usually 2 T's. I don't know. This is 1 T. Anyway, long story short, man, trauma comes in many forms, and we all
Mhm.
face it and we all deal with it. So just be careful. I mean, I don't ever think we should get to a point where we're tiptoeing or
No, 'cause that
or
works that's
you're
also
in.
unhelpful in another
Yeah,
direction.
it's like it's not good, but to be aware and to just be respectful and have some decency. Damn it, have some decency about other people, no matter what position you in, and just think about like, are you being not nice? Don't be not be nice, not nice. That's what I tell the 4-year-old sometimes. Just 2 words. It just sometimes we should be able to say that in other spaces, like to that therapist you're describing, right?
Yeah.
Or
Like, what
or
is
in
it?
work environments, or maybe at the
Mhm.
store, just like not nice. And
Mhm.
if you just not nice, not abusive, just a little. I'm not imploring to have anybody physical assault anybody because some people might hit harder, but the metaphor of not nice.
Yeah, it's a metaphorical, not nice, a tap on the hand, but you're saying it verbally as opposed to touching someone.
You heard me say that, right? Don't try to get me canceled, okay?
Yeah,
There's no
yeah,
implication. I will not be implicated on this violence or anything that you might do. But be cool, man. Be cool, man. Just
yeah,
be kind. And I just want to tell you thank you for sharing.
yeah.
And thank you for caring and what you do every day. And you do so much for so many other people's. And since I met you, you've been a light in my life. And
Same
I
here.
just tell
Yeah.
you thank you. And so whether it's the service that she does, because if you're looking for a purpose, look around you because somewhere someone needs your service. I'll tell you that. Okay, don't worry about trying to save the world. Look around where you are. Somebody needs your help at something. It may just be that person on the aisle if you're blessed with height that you can help reach something. But it's simple interactions, and those are the things. We've all heard it. I'm sure you've heard the story of the guy who he died, jumped off a bridge, but as he walked there, his note was like, if anybody looks at me and smiles or
Hmm.
something. And you never know how that kind gesture, and that's a power play, right? Like but that is an extreme example of how your moment by moment interaction with other people around you may push them over a certain edge or something. But as Yana said, about faith, it's not just religion. She's been ministered to and counseled and guided by atheists, right? They can still be moral people, right? But as Makash says about faith, it's the inner purpose from higher strength or greater strength, right? It's to me, it's like we talk about holistic and physical, mental, social, spiritual health. That's what we've wired it down to with McTiff, Marine Corps Total Fitness. There's more stuff to it, but it's the holistic of a person. The spiritual to me is what keeps you going when all the other things might fall off, your social, your mental, your physical. That whatever that thing is, that could be spiritual for you, and that comes in many forms and facets. But her faith in the Lord, she admits, she said it many times, you didn't have to do a qualifying statement, but you did, and admit it, as we all should. We're not perfect. We're all work in progress. But sports, water aerobics, dance, golf, meeting different people, trying new things, yoga, belly dancing. I mean, those are just some of the options of outlets, and also art, and all those things could be described as art as well.
Yeah.
I just wanted to do a quick recap. Remember taps.org, the RWB Foundation is offering that. Unspokentrauma.vet, like a veterinarian, vet, to follow Garrett's stuff and see his TED Talk. ASAP.org. Yes, it's said twice because it's so nice, but also if you do ASAP, you're going to get Army Substance Abuse Program, and you're going to get as soon as possible. So ASAP.org, missionbelonging.org. And remember, they have virtual options. And then the holisticfamilysolutions.com. If nothing else, you may find something or call them and they may tell you something locally to you wherever you're at of an option. But I do know in the Tidewater, Hampton Roads area, they're doing some stuff. And one of them things is that foot. So just giving you tangible resources. And don't forget those white letters I said, execute and mental wellness from General Neller, the 37th Commandant of the United States Marine Corps. Just lead like you want to be led. And just remember that pain shared is pain divided. And saying all of that, and art saves lives, is there anything that you would like to plug or speak to as we depart this episode, my friend?
No, I think we got it all covered. I mean, we can always come back again and just chit chat about more
No, I
life
say we do it
stuff.
again.
Yeah,
This has
yeah.
been
So
like I've said
he
this
takes
before.
notes.
I do, because the
That's
dullest
awesome.
pencil is sharper than my memory, right?
Hmm.
And if I don't write it down, I forget it, which is what that Chinese proverb is basically describing. But yeah, to anybody out there, take notes,
Hmm.
especially if somebody's sharing things with you and expressing things. Not like I'm gonna get her canceled because of that. No, but in the sense of like, I want to be able to retain this information that this person shared with me. So if you are in somewhere where someone's facilitating something, if you just sitting there looking like this, you're an asshole. Okay, you can't see me physically, but I'm cross-armed and I'm like this, which is basically like, hell, you gonna tell me, right? You never know what you might learn from something. And if you want to learn something new, Dr. King said, read an old book. I don't know. I'm just saying, just threw it out there. It's a cool quote. Sublimate, channel your bad energies. But I love this too. We don't grow in comfortable spaces, and physical movement is therapy.
Yes, Lord.
Goodness gracious. I got note. Look, this is my book of notes. This is all my previous guests. I was flipping through there because it just helps me, because I go back through it, and I do the show to hopefully be able to help other people in the on-demand land that we live in, but also to have real talk about these subjects, because people talk all day long about what offends them. And it's usually something they can't control, or it's some language or something. You know what offends me, y'all? Is dead bodies. What offends me is lazy leaders, or just non-effective people that are just collecting checks. What offends me is people being sexually assaulted. What offends me is people suffering from trauma they shouldn't have endured. And even though there might be some growth in it, damn it, couldn't it have been avoided if people just cared a little bit more? And that's what offends me. So that's why I made this. And so when I do this, it's not just to do the things I just described and not just to help other people. It helps me. And I only choose guests on this show that inspire me and that I know can inspire somebody else. So I love you. I appreciate you, as the Golden Girls just so poetically said. Thank you for being a friend.
I mean, there's a lot of life lessons you can learn from the Golden Girls. Yes. I'm telling you, man.
So
I love
many,
that show.
So many on there. It really is. And I have felt like Greg Brady the entire episode when he's talking to his daddy. And he's like, I never thought about it like that, Dad. That's a shout out to the Brady Bunch. Y'all know the show. But yeah, no, I have. Like I've said here, like, I've had a few eureka moments. Some Jay-Z, thank God for granting me this moment of clarity, this moment of honesty. All right, sorry. It's okay. And I stole it. I stole it. That's Jay-Z off the Black album right there. He said he was done, but he came. Yeah. I had appropriated them lyrics right there. But I do always ask every guest. I always ask them what resilience means to them. Then we riff, and I just thank you for being such an amazing guest. But I do always ask this question: somebody out there right now, unfortunately, is thinking about making a permanent decision, which is death. There's a lot of permanence. I got it. Don't even try to check me on this shit, okay, everybody? Everything in life is temporary, but what is permanent is death. It really is. So before they do that, if you had the opportunity to say something to them, what would you say?
It's just to let them know that 988, you are not alone. Again, it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yes.
You may need help. So one of the strongest, best things, or one of the strongest aspects of your character, and one of the best things you can do for yourself is ask for help. Asking for help is not a weakness; it's a strength. And knowing that this too will pass.
Yes.
Reach out. Do not be afraid to reach out. There are so many resources. If there's only one that you remember from today is 988.
Yes.
Call that number. Ask them for other support services in your area, because your life has value. One thing I would tell my service members I work with, you what is it? You are worth fighting for. If there's anything you remember, you are worth fighting for. Do whatever you can to stay in the fight. Let people know what kind of help you need, because sometimes I tell people not to put things on stream, but on spray. Be real specific about what kind of help you need, so you can get the help that's targeted to that need. But definitely, you are worth fighting for. 988. Reach out. There's no shame in your game. The best thing you can do for yourself is let people know that you're struggling so that they can help you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you all too.
No, thank you. And one new resource that came out for those affiliated with Marine Corps is the Semper Support thing. It's tied through Military One Source, but 988. But I've also heard that they've lessened their staff. Okay, so if you hit a wake call, or if you're really thinking about that permanent decision, you can always call 911. Call someone. Like, people can't read minds. People, as good as this human is, as good as her heart is, she can't read my mind.
Not a mind reader.
So you gotta like Jerry Maguire, help me, help you, help me, help you. Right. So it takes two to tango, and people can't read minds. And sometimes you got to speak up as well. And you may have been hurt before where you like, fuck speaking up. You know what that hurt turned into? I'd rather hear your whole life story than to ever hear your eulogy. I'm just telling you right now.
Boom.
So
Wow.
don't rule out Semper Support. Don't rule out Military One Source. Don't rule out 988. Don't rule out all the other resources that we've shared on this. And I will put them in the show notes and on the postings of this. But in all things, it takes a village, it takes a tribe. And I just want to say to you, Jan, my fellow Virginia native, I love you. I appreciate you. And thank you for taking the time, because time is the one currency we spend every day. We don't know our remaining balance. And this kind human gave her time to hopefully impact someone. So if you think that this episode helped you or could help someone else, please share it. I make no money. You notice there wasn't no ads, right? I'll tell you, go buy my book, All Things Considered, 33 Gems of Resilience. But other than that, I got no ads. I do that on purpose because I'm not into that. I'm into the impact it can have. And she is too. And for that, I just tell you, thank you. And I admire the well, I don't say shit, that's a bad word. But I admire you a whole bunch. A whole bunch. And like Kanye said before, Kanye, you probably need to take your meds too. I love you, man. I want you the best for you, man. If you admire someone, you should go ahead and tell them. People never get the flowers, but they can still smell them. Exactly. I admire you. And gratitude is one hell of a drug. I told y'all listen to Love Yours, but also listen to Big Brother by Kanye West. You will learn about some gratitude on that. Thank you. I've totally like extended the ending. Like I know,
right? But I will say, because it's just, again, I appreciate you, Cam, in so many ways. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and take these nuggets of wisdom and share them amongst others.
That's right, because we need it. Some stupid shit will go viral on some. I'm not trying to make this go viral for a me purpose, but damn it, why can't we make good things go viral? We'll have a crying meme of Will Smith's head when his wife tells him she was not faithful, and that becomes a viral meme. We'll have a meme of the dude whose career and his life is ruined, as well as his colleague that he was at the Coldplay concert with. And I can keep going on with these things. Kanye crying, Michael Jordan crying, so many other things will go viral in our society, but yet we care about mental health. Come on, man. Talk is cheap, your actions speak, okay? Think about that and think about the effect you're having, not only on yourself, but on others. We're going to roll out to the sounds of my brother. I love you, Rex, Uncle Rex, Pelo Chino, Monchichi Rex, Second Winds, y'all. I couldn't think of a better song to ever end on, but it's on the Second Winds. And I told y'all this show is no reflection of or endorsement from any official organization, to include the Dow Jones or the Department of War, Dow, anybody else. This is just two car-carrying American citizens expressing themselves, using their First Amendment to hopefully help other people in this world. And you know who we're sponsored by, Jan?
We're sponsored by...
Yeah, do you know who we're sponsored by? Key Sweat. Nobody, baby.
That's a good one.
I appreciate y'all. Much love always.
Take it easy, everyone.
See y'all later. All right, sorry.
That is wild.